The little black girl sat on the cold, satisfactory floor, her small hands trembling around a bowl of spoiled oatmeal. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to lift the spoon to her mouth, but her body refused. The woman in the red dress grabbed her chin, forcing her face toward the bowl. "Eat it, every last bite. Your daddy isn't here to save you, and nobody will ever believe a child who can't even speak. You're nothing but a burden, just like your dead mother was." The child opened her mouth, but no words came out. Only a silent, strangled cry escaped her throat as the woman's manicured nails dug deeper into her skin. Before we continue, please subscribe to my channel and follow this story until the very end. Comment below with the city you are watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now let us begin. The black Bentley rolled to a stop at the iron gates of the Thompson estate in Buckhead, Atlanta. Marcus Thompson pressed the button on his steering wheel and the gates slowly parted. He had been gone for 3 weeks. San Francisco, then New York, then Chicago. Business meetings that could not wait. Deals that needed his signature. That was what he told himself every time he left his 7-year-old daughter behind. Marcus was 43 years old. A self-made man. Thompson Digital Solutions had made him one of the wealthiest black entrepreneurs in the Southeast. His face had been on the cover of Forbes twice. His name commanded respect in boardrooms from coast to coast. But none of that mattered right now. All that mattered was seeing his daughter, Zoe. He pulled the car into the circular driveway and cut the engine. The house stood before him grand and silent. Too silent. Usually Gloria would have opened the front door by now. His daughter would be waiting on the porch, her small hand raised in a wave, her eyes bright, even though her voice never came. Today there was nothing. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and walked to the front door. He turned the handle. Unlocked. Strange. "Zoe?" he called out. His voice echoed through the marble foyer. "Gloria, I'm home." Nothing answered him but silence. He set his briefcase on the table and loosened his tie. Something was wrong. He could feel it pressing against his chest, that old instinct that had never failed him. The same instinct that told him to sell his first company 6 months before the market crashed. The same instinct that warned him about partners who smiled too wide and promised too much. That instinct was screaming at him now. He walked through the living room, past the kitchen, down the hallway toward the back of the house. Then he heard it. A voice. Sharp. Cruel. Coming from somewhere near the garden. "I said eat it. Are you deaf as well as dumb?" Marcus froze. He knew that voice. It belonged to his wife, Vanessa, but he had never heard it sound like that. Never heard that edge of contempt. That razor of hatred cutting through every syllable. He moved faster, his Italian shoes clicking against the hardwood. He passed through the sunroom, pushed open the back door, and followed the voice toward the old garden shed. The one his late wife Amara had used for growing herbs. The one he hadn't entered since she died 5 years ago. The door hung slightly open. Marcus pressed his palm against the rotting wood and pushed. What he saw stopped his heart dead. His daughter Zoe sat on the concrete floor. Her natural hair, usually styled in neat puffs, hung matted and tangled around her face. Her brown skin looked ashy and neglected. She wore a stained nightgown even though the afternoon sun blazed outside. In her trembling hands she clutched a bowl. The smell hit Marcus like a fist. Spoiled food. Rotting vegetables, something no human being should ever have to put in their mouth. And standing over her was Vanessa, his wife of 18 months. The woman he had married because he believed his daughter needed a mother. Vanessa's face was twisted into something Marcus had never witnessed before. Her perfect features, the ones that smiled so warmly at charity galas and neighborhood dinners, had contorted into pure rage. Her designer dress looked obscene against the filth of the shed. Her manicured finger pointed down at the child like a loaded weapon. "You think you can defy me. You think because your daddy spoils you that you're special." Vanessa's voice dripped venom. "You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing but a reminder of a dead woman I'm sick of competing with." Zoe lifted her eyes. Those eyes. Amara's eyes. They were filled with tears, red-rimmed from crying hollow from exhaustion and hunger. She tried to speak. Her mouth opened. Her throat moved. But nothing came out. It never did. Not since the car accident that killed her mother when Zoe was only 2 years old. Vanessa laughed and the sound was ugly. "That's right, you can't even tell on me, can you? Can't run to daddy and tattle. That's what makes you so perfect for this." Marcus felt something shatter inside his chest. Something that had been holding him together since Amara died. Something that had kept him functioning, kept him working, kept him believing that providing money and comfort was enough. "What the hell are you doing to my daughter?" His voice came out low and dangerous, the voice he used in negotiations when someone had crossed a line they could never uncross. Vanessa spun around. For 1 second, Marcus saw her true face, the hatred, the calculation, The predator caught mid-kill. Then, like a mask snapping into place, it vanished, replaced by something soft, something wounded, something designed to manipulate. Marcus! Oh, thank God you're home early. She rushed toward him, her hands reaching for his chest. I've been so worried about her. She won't eat anything. She's been refusing food for days, and I didn't know what else to do. I was just trying to help her. Marcus stepped back from her touch like she was diseased. He looked past her at his daughter. Zoe still sat on that filthy floor, the bowl clutched in her hands, her entire body trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. Zoe, come here, baby. The little girl hesitated. Her eyes darted to Vanessa, and Marcus saw it. Fear. Pure primal animal fear. The kind of fear that comes from months of torment from learning that the person who should protect you is the one who hurts you most. It's okay, sweetheart. Come to Daddy. Zoe set the bowl down slowly like she expected to be punished for it. She pushed herself up from the floor and her legs wobbled beneath her. She was so thin. Dear God, how had she gotten so thin? Marcus dropped to his knees and opened his arms. Zoe stumbled toward him and collapsed against his chest. She weighed nothing. His 7-year-old daughter felt like a bundle of sticks wrapped in dirty cloth. He could feel every rib through her nightgown. He could feel her heart pounding against his chest, fast and frantic like a small bird trying to escape a cage. Marcus, please, you have to understand what's been happening. Vanessa's voice had shifted again now, pleading and tearful. She has an eating disorder, a serious one. I've been consulting with doctor specialists trying to find ways to help her. They say it's psychological. They say she needs intensive treatment. Marcus stood up, lifting Zoe with him. She wrapped her thin arms around his neck and buried her face against his shoulder, and he felt wetness soaking through his shirt. Silent tears. The only kind his daughter could cry. What doctors? Dr. Raymond Foster. He's a psychiatrist who specializes in children with developmental challenges. He evaluated her last week while you were in Chicago. He says she has reactive attachment disorder combined with severe anxiety. He's recommending residential treatment at a facility in Vermont. Marcus stared at his wife. Residential treatment. They wanted to send his daughter away, lock her up somewhere far from home, far from him, far from anyone who might see what was really happening. Why wasn't I told about any of this? I tried to reach you, Marcus. I called your office every day. Your assistant said you were in back-to-back meetings, that you couldn't be disturbed. I had to make decisions. I had to do something before we lost her completely. Vanessa's eyes glistened with perfectly formed tears rolling down her perfectly made-up cheeks. And besides, she whispered, dropping her voice to something intimate and fragile, I've been under so much stress myself. The pregnancy has been difficult. The doctors say I need to minimize my anxiety for the baby's sake. Marcus felt the ground tilt beneath his feet. What pregnancy? Vanessa placed her hand on her stomach with a gesture so tender, so natural, it could have fooled anyone. I'm 2 months along. I was going to tell you tonight. I wanted it to be special, just the two of us. A new beginning for our family. Marcus looked at his wife's hand resting on her belly. He looked at his daughter's face pressed against his shoulder. He felt Zoe's grip tighten at the word pregnancy, felt her whole body go rigid with something that might have been terror. We need to go inside, he said quietly. We need to talk about all of this. That night, Marcus sat alone in his study with every door locked and every curtain drawn. Zoe was asleep in her bedroom. He had bathed her himself, horrified by what he found. Bruises on her arms in the shape of fingers, scratches on her back, ribs he could count through her skin. He had dressed her in clean pajamas, tucked her into bed, and sat with her until her eyes finally closed. Now he sat in the darkness with his laptop open, navigating to the home security system he had installed 3 years ago after a series of break-ins rattled the neighborhood. The system recorded everything, every room except the bathrooms, every hallway, every corner of the property, including the garden shed. His fingers trembled as he clicked through the archived footage. He went back one day, then 2, then a week, then a month. What he saw destroyed him. Vanessa dragging Zoe by her hair across the kitchen floor. Vanessa forcing the child's face into a plate of food gone cold and rancid. Vanessa shoving his daughter into that shed and slamming the door, leaving her alone in the darkness for hours. And the things she said. The camera captured every word with merciless clarity. Your mother should have taken you with her when she died. Would have saved us all a lot of trouble. You're the reason your father can't love me properly. You and your creepy silent staring. You make my skin crawl. If you ever try to tell anyone what happens in this house, I will make sure you disappear. They'll think you ran away. They'll think you killed yourself. Nobody will ever find you. Marcus watched his daughter curl up in the corner of that shed alone and terrified. He watched her small finger trace letters in the dust on the concrete floor. He zoomed in on the image until he could read what she had written, HELPDADDY. He closed the laptop. He sat in the absolute darkness of his study, and for the first time since Amara's funeral, Marcus Thompson wept. He wept for his daughter's suffering. He wept for his own blindness. He wept for the monster he had invited into their home and called his wife. Then he stopped weeping, because tears were a luxury he could no longer afford. His daughter needed action, not grief. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the name. Michelle Robinson, attorney at law. She had represented Thompson Digital Solutions in a discrimination lawsuit 3 years ago. She had won that case, and she won every case before it. Michelle Robinson did not lose. He typed a message with shaking fingers, "I need your help. It's about my daughter. It's urgent. Life and death urgent." The reply came back in under 2 minutes. "I'll be at your house at 6 tomorrow morning. Don't confront anyone. Don't do anything. Just wait." Marcus set the phone down and walked through the silent house to his daughter's room. He opened her door as quietly as he could and stepped inside. Zoe was asleep, her small body curled into a tight, protective ball beneath the covers. Even in sleep, her face looked troubled, her brow furrowed, her hands clenched into fists like she was still fighting off nightmares. He sat down on the edge of her bed and placed his hand gently on her back. She flinched at the touch, even in sleep, and that small, involuntary movement broke his heart all over again. "I'm sorry, he whispered into the darkness. "I'm so sorry, baby girl. Daddy let you down. But I'm here now, I'm not going anywhere, and I swear to God I will never let anyone hurt you again." Zoe stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, clouded with sleep and confusion. Then she saw her father sitting beside her, and her face changed. The fear melted away, replaced by something fragile and trembling. Hope. She reached for his hand and held it with all the strength in her tiny body. Marcus stayed with her until the first gray light of dawn crept through the curtains. He did not sleep. He did not move. He simply sat there holding his daughter's hand, standing guard over her, the way he should have been doing all along. Michelle Robinson arrived at exactly 6 o'clock. She was a tall woman in her mid-50s with silver-streaked locks pulled back from a face that had seen too much and forgiven too little. Her eyes missed nothing. Her handshake was firm enough to crush bone. "Show me everything," she said before Marcus could offer her coffee. They went to his study. He showed her the security footage. He showed her the timestamps. He showed her frame after frame of his wife's cruelty captured in high definition. Michelle watched it all without expression. When the final video ended, she closed the laptop and looked at Marcus. "Where is this woman now?" "Upstairs, sleeping." "Good. Let her sleep. The longer she thinks everything is normal, the more time we have to build an airtight case." Michelle pulled out her phone. "I have a contact at Atlanta PD, Detective Keisha Santos. She runs the Child Protective Services Liaison Unit. I'm calling her in." "How long will this take?" "Days, maybe a week. We need medical examinations, psychological evaluations, witness statements. We need to verify whether this pregnancy claim is real or another manipulation. And we need to find out who else knew what was happening in this house and stayed silent." Marcus thought of Gloria, the housekeeper who had worked for his family since before Zoe was born, the woman who had practically raised Amara and had promised to help raise her daughter. "Gloria Williams, she was our housekeeper. Vanessa told me she retired 6 months ago, health problems." "Did you verify that yourself?" "No, I was traveling. Vanessa handled everything." Michelle wrote something in her notebook. "We find Gloria, today. If she was in this house during any of what I just watched, she's either a witness or an accomplice. Either way, we need her." After Michelle left, Marcus forced himself to play a role that made his skin crawl. He went downstairs and found Vanessa in the kitchen, already dressed and made up preparing breakfast like nothing had happened. She smiled when she saw him, and that smile sent ice through his veins. "Good morning, darling. I made your favorite. Eggs Benedict with that hollandaise sauce you love." Marcus sat down at the table. He picked up his fork. He made himself take a bite even though every cell in his body screamed to confront her, to destroy her, to throw her out of his house and his life forever. "Delicious?" he said. The word tasted like poison. "I was thinking we should call Dr. Foster today." Vanessa set a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice beside his plate. "Schedule another evaluation for Zoe. The sooner we get her into that treatment program, the sooner she can start healing. And the sooner our lives can go back to normal." "Let's wait a few more days. I just got back from a long trip. I want to spend some time with her first." Something flickered across Vanessa's face. A shadow of irritation quickly suppressed. "Of course, you're absolutely right. Father-daughter time is so important." She sat down across from him, one hand resting on her stomach in that gesture Marcus now recognized as calculated performance. "I just want what's best for everyone, Marcus. For Zoe, for you, for our baby. We're going to be such a beautiful family. I can feel it." Marcus looked at her hand on her belly. He thought about the videos. He thought about his daughter writing "Help Daddy" in the dust. He thought about how close he had come to losing everything that mattered. "Yes," he said quietly, "we certainly will be." That afternoon, while Vanessa was at a hair appointment, Marcus drove to East Atlanta. The address Michelle had found for Gloria Williams led to a rundown apartment building with crumbling brick walls and a broken security gate that hung off its hinges. He found her unit on the second floor at the end of a hallway that smelled like mildew and old cooking oil. Gloria answered the door with the chain still attached. When she saw who stood on the other side, her eyes went wide with shock and something else. Fear. "Mr. Marcus, Gloria, please, I need to talk to you." She stared at him for a long moment. Her face was thinner than he remembered, aged by worry and hard times. Then she unhooked the chain and stepped back. "Come in, quick before anyone sees." The apartment was small and cramped, but clean. Gloria led him to a tiny living room, where a television played silently in the corner. She did not offer him a seat. She did not offer him water or coffee. She simply stood there, wringing her hands, her whole body tight with anxiety. "I know why you're here," she said before he could speak. "I've been waiting for this day, praying for it and dreading it at the same time." "Tell me what happened, Gloria. Tell me everything." "That woman." Gloria spat the word like it was venom. "She changed the minute you left for your first business trip after the wedding, the very minute your car pulled out of the driveway, like a switch got flipped inside her." Gloria's voice trembled as the story poured out. Vanessa moving Zoe out of her pretty pink bedroom and into a storage closet. Vanessa firing the night nurse who had helped care for the child since infancy. Vanessa replacing meals with scraps and leftovers, then punishing Zoe when she couldn't finish the rotten food. "I tried to protect that baby, Mr. Marcus. I swear to God I tried. But every time I did something, every time I snuck her some real food or cleaned up those wounds that woman found out. She has eyes everywhere, cameras I didn't even know about." "Why didn't you call me?" "I did," Gloria's voice cracked. "I called your office every single day for 2 months straight, left messages with your assistant, sent emails to every address I could find. Someone kept deleting them. Someone kept telling me you were too busy, that you'd call back, that my concerns were noted." Marcus felt sick. His assistant Patricia had worked for him for 8 years. He trusted her completely. Had Vanessa gotten to her too? "When she found out I was trying to reach you, she fired me on the spot." "Hint." Gloria sank into a worn armchair like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. "Said if I ever came near the house again, she'd have me arrested for stealing. Said she had proof I'd been taking jewelry and silverware. Said she'd make sure I never worked again, that no one in Atlanta would hire a black woman accused of theft." "So you stayed quiet." "What choice did I have? I'm 62 years old with a bad hip and no savings. That job was my whole life." Tears streamed down Gloria's weathered face. "But I never stopped thinking about that little girl. Not for one single day. I light a candle for her every night. I pray for her every morning. It's been eating me alive knowing she was suffering, and I couldn't do anything to stop it." Marcus leaned forward. "I need evidence, Gloria. I need something concrete." Gloria wiped her eyes and stood up slowly. She walked to an old dresser and pulled open the bottom drawer. From beneath a pile of faded sweaters, she withdrew a smartphone with a cracked screen. "I took pictures," she said. "Every chance I got. I didn't know what else to do, so I documented everything." She handed him the phone with trembling hands. Marcus looked at the photo album and felt his blood turn to ice. His daughter eating from a dog bowl on the kitchen floor, while Vanessa watched and laughed. His daughter with welts across her back, the marks clearly made by a belt or a cord. His daughter huddled in that garden shed, surrounded by darkness, her eyes empty and hopeless. "There's more." Gloria's voice dropped to a whisper. "That woman talks on the phone late at night. She thinks everyone's asleep, but I heard her. I heard what she said." "What did she say?" "She was talking about money, about the house, about what would happen after." Gloria paused, her face twisted with remembered horror. "After Zoe was gone. She said it would be easier once the child was out of the way. She said she could finally have everything she deserved." Marcus gripped the phone so hard his knuckles went white. "Did she say anything else?" Gloria hesitated. Something shifted in her eyes. "There was one other thing. I don't know what it means, but it scared me bad. She was talking to someone about the accident. about Miss Amara's accident. The room seemed to tilt. Marcus grabbed the arm of a chair to steady himself. What about the accident? She said something like it worked once, it can work again, and then she laughed, Mr. Marcus. She laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world. The drive back to Buckhead took 45 minutes, but Marcus didn't remember any of it. His mind was churning through possibilities he had never allowed himself to consider. Amara's accident, a rainy night 5 years ago, a truck running a red light, his wife dead at the scene, their 2-year-old daughter traumatized into silence. It was an accident, everyone said so, the police, the insurance companies, everyone. But what if it wasn't? He was so lost in thought that he almost didn't notice Vanessa's car pulling out of the driveway as he approached the house. She didn't see him. Her attention was focused on her phone, and she turned left at the main road heading toward downtown. Marcus parked and went straight to his study. He opened his laptop and pulled up the security system again, this time focusing on footage from that morning. He needed to know what Vanessa was doing while he was gone. He found it at 10:47 a.m. Vanessa entering his study while he was meeting with Michelle in the kitchen. She went straight to his desk, straight to the drawer where he kept his personal files. She rifled through papers, photographing some with her phone. Then she opened his laptop, entered his password like she had done it 100 times before, and started copying files to a USB drive. She knew. She knew he was investigating her. Marcus picked up his phone and called Michelle. She answered on the first ring. "We have a problem. Vanessa accessed my computer this morning. She copied files. She knows something is happening." Michelle's voice was calm but urgent. "What files? I don't know yet. Financial records maybe, communication logs, anything she could use. This accelerates our timeline. I'm calling Detective Santos now. We need to move before Vanessa destroys evidence or disappears." Michelle paused. "And Marcus, don't leave Zoe alone with her. Not for 1 second. Do you understand?" "I understand." He found Zoe in her room sitting on the floor with a box of crayons and a stack of paper. She looked up when he entered, and her face lit up with a smile that simultaneously warmed and shattered his heart. How could she still smile after everything she had been through? "Hey, baby girl." He sat down on the floor beside her. "What are you drawing?" Zoe held up the paper. It showed a house with the bright yellow sun overhead. 2 figures stood in front, one tall and one small, holding hands. At the bottom, in careful wobbly letters, she had written "Me and Datey." Marcus pulled her into his arms and held her tight. Over her shoulder, he noticed another drawing half hidden beneath the stack. He reached for it carefully. This one was different. Darker. It showed a room with no windows, a small figure huddled in the corner. Outside the door stood a woman with yellow hair and red lips, her face stretched into an ugly smile. And at the top of the page, 3 words, "The Bad Place." "Zoe, sweetheart." Marcus kept his voice soft and steady. "Can I ask you something important?" She nodded, her eyes suddenly wary. "Has Vanessa ever talked to you about Mommy, about what happened to Mommy?" Zoe's whole body went rigid. She pulled back from him, her breath coming faster, her hands starting to shake. She shook her head violently, pressing her lips together like she was trying to keep something inside. "It's okay. You don't have to say anything. I just need to know if you're scared." Marcus took her hands gently in his. "Are you scared, baby?" Zoe looked at him with those big dark eyes, Amara's eyes, and nodded slowly. Then she did something she had never done before. She raised her hands and began to move them, forming shapes in the air. Sign language. Marcus had been learning in secret for months, practicing at night in his study, watching videos on his phone during business trips. He had wanted to give his daughter a way to communicate a voice that didn't require sound. He hadn't known if she was learning too. He hadn't known if anyone was teaching her, but her signs were clear. Shaky and uncertain, but clear. She wants me gone. Marcus felt tears burn his eyes. "Who taught you to sign?" Zoe's hands moved again. "Miss Gloria, before Vanessa sent Gloria away, before his daughter was left alone with a monster." Marcus signed back, his movements clumsy but determined. "I will protect you, I promise." Zoe threw herself against him, her small arms wrapping around his neck, her silent tears soaking into his shirt. He held her and rocked her gently, making promises in his heart that he intended to keep if it was the last thing he ever did. The front door opened downstairs. Vanessa's heels clicked against the marble floor of the foyer. "Marcus, are you home?" He stood up quickly, helping Zoe to her feet. "Stay here, okay? Don't come downstairs unless I call for you." Zoe grabbed his hand, her eyes wide with fear. She signed rapidly, "Be careful, she lies." "I know, baby, I know." He walked downstairs to find Vanessa in the kitchen unpacking shopping bags like everything was perfectly normal. She smiled when she saw him. "There you are, I picked up some groceries. I thought I'd make that roast chicken you love tonight. A nice family dinner?" "Sounds good." Vanessa set down a bag of vegetables and turned to face him fully. Her eyes, he noticed now, were sharp and calculating behind their warmth. "I saw the strangest thing while I was out. A woman who looked just like our old housekeeper, Gloria. Can you imagine I thought she moved to Florida?" Marcus kept his face neutral. "Must have been someone else." "Must have been." Vanessa picked up an apple and polished it against her dress. "You know, Marcus, I've been thinking about us, about our family, about the future." "What about it?" "I think we need to make some decisions, big decisions, about Zoe's treatment, about my pregnancy, about where we go from here." She took a bite of the apple, her eyes never leaving his face. "I have some ideas I'd like to share with you, tonight, after dinner, when we can really talk." Something in her tone made the hair rise on the back of Marcus's neck. She knew, she definitely knew. "I look forward to it," he said. That night after a dinner that felt like eating glass, Marcus excused himself to put Zoe to bed. He tucked her in, checked the lock on her window, and placed a chair against her door from the inside. "Don't open this for anyone except me," he told her. "No matter what you hear. Do you understand?" Zoe nodded. She signed, "What is happening?" "I'm fixing things, baby. I'm making it right. But I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" She nodded again, more firmly this time. Her small jaw set with determination that reminded him so much of Amara, it made his heart ache. He kissed her forehead and left the room, closing the door quietly behind him. Then he went to his study to wait. At 11:47 p.m., his phone buzzed with a text from Michelle Judge, agreed to emergency hearing. "Tuesday morning, Santos has arrest warrant ready, hold tight." Marcus stared at the message. Tuesday, 4 days away. He just had to keep his daughter safe for 4 more days. He was still staring at the phone when the door to his study opened. Vanessa stood in the doorway wearing a silk robe, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful. She looked deadly. "We need to talk, Marcus. Really talk. No more games." She stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. The lock clicked softly. "I know what you're doing. I know about the lawyer. I know about the detective. I know about your little visit to Gloria's apartment today." She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. Nothing human. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out I have people everywhere? People who are loyal to me. People you trust." Marcus stood slowly. "This is over, Vanessa. It ends now." "Oh, darling," she laughed softly. "It's just beginning. You have no idea what I'm capable of. No idea what I've already done." She walked toward him, her hips swaying, her eyes locked on his. "Do you want to know what really happened to your precious Amara? Do you want to know why that truck ran that red light on that rainy night 5 years ago?" Marcus's blood turned to ice. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that accidents can be arranged, Marcus. I'm saying that sometimes people need to be removed so that better people can take their place. I'm saying that your first wife was in my way and now your daughter is in my way, and I always get what I want in the end." For a moment, Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she was telling him. Vanessa had killed Amara. She had murdered his wife and then waited patiently for years until she could slide into the empty space and take everything. "You're insane." "I'm practical." Vanessa shrugged elegantly. "There's a difference. Amara was weak. She couldn't give you what you needed. She was too soft, too kind, too focused on that damaged child. But I'm strong, Marcus. I can give you sons. Real heirs, a real legacy. All you have to do is let go of the past." "Let go of my daughter, you mean?" "She's not really your daughter anymore, is she? Not the daughter you remember. She's broken, defective, a constant reminder of a woman you should have forgotten years ago." Vanessa reached out and touched his face, her fingers cold against his skin. "Send her away. Sign the papers. Let Dr. Foster take her to that facility in Vermont. You'll never have to see her again, and we can start fresh. Just you, me, and our babies." Marcus caught her wrist and pulled her hand away from his face. "There are no babies, Vanessa. You're not pregnant. You never were." For the first time, something like genuine emotion flickered across Vanessa's face. Surprise, then anger, then something cold and calculating. "So you have been busy." She pulled her wrist free and stepped back. "It doesn't matter. By the time your lawyer and your detective get their act together, I'll be long gone. And so will a significant portion of your assets. I've been planning this for a very long time, Marcus. You're not the only one who knows how to make deals. You're not going anywhere. There's a warrant for your arrest. A warrant? Vanessa laughed. Darling, I have a judge in my pocket. I have a sheriff who owes me favors. I have doctors willing to swear that your daughter is mentally unstable and that you're an unfit father suffering from grief-induced delusions. By the time I'm finished, you'll be lucky if you're allowed supervised visitation. She walked to the door and unlocked it. Sleep well, Marcus. Enjoy these last few days with your precious Zoe. They're going to be the last ones you ever have. She left. Her footsteps faded down the hallway. Marcus stood alone in his study, his mind racing through possibilities. Vanessa was right about one thing. She had been planning this for a long time. She had connections, resources, allies he didn't know about. But she had made one critical mistake. She had told him the truth. She had confessed to murder, to fraud, to conspiracy. And she had done it in his study. The study with the security camera hidden in the bookshelf. The study that recorded everything. Marcus walked to his desk and opened the laptop. He pulled up the footage from the last 15 minutes. Every word Vanessa had said was captured in perfect damning clarity. He picked up his phone and called Michelle. I have something you need to hear, right now, tonight. He pressed play. In her bedroom down the hall, Vanessa was on the phone making arrangements for an early morning flight. She had no idea that her entire world was about to collapse. In her room at the other end of the house, Zoe sat awake in her bed, unable to sleep. She had heard footsteps, voices, something that sounded like arguing. She hugged her pillow tight and stared at the door, waiting for her father to come back, waiting for the monsters to come. She reached under her mattress and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Another drawing. This one showed something different. A courtroom. A woman in handcuffs. A little girl holding her father's hand. At the bottom, she had written a single word. A word she had never spoken aloud. A word she had only ever traced in dust and drawn in crayon. Hope. I'll uncover the intricate web of manipulation Vanessa has woven, revealing how her calculated schemes extend far beyond what anyone initially suspected. Her network of influence runs deep, involving powerful connections that she's carefully cultivated over years to protect herself from exposure. Michelle Robinson arrived at the Thompson estate at 3:47 in the morning. She came with Detective Keisha Santos and a forensic technician who specialized in digital evidence extraction. Marcus met them at the back gate to avoid alerting Vanessa, who was still asleep upstairs dreaming of escape plans that would never come true. Play it again, Michelle said after hearing the recording for the third time. Marcus pressed the button. Vanessa's voice filled the room cold and confident. Do you want to know what really happened to your precious Amara? Do you want to know why that truck ran that red light on that rainy night 5 years ago? Detective Santos leaned forward, her eyes sharp. She's confessing to conspiracy to commit murder. This changes everything. This isn't just a child abuse case anymore. Can we use this in court? Marcus asked. Georgia is a one-party consent state. You were present during the conversation. The recording is legal. Michelle closed her notebook. But we need more. We need to connect her to that truck driver. We need financial records, communication logs, anything that proves she planned your wife's death. The forensic technician looked up from his laptop. I'm pulling her phone records now. She's been using a burner phone for certain calls, but she made a mistake 3 weeks ago. She used her regular phone to contact someone named Raymond Foster. The fake psychiatrist, Marcus said. There's more. She also contacted a man named Harold Dalton, Sheriff Harold Dalton, 14 calls in the past month. Detective Santos cursed under her breath. Dalton runs the county sheriff's office. He's been under investigation by Internal Affairs for months. We suspected he was taking bribes, but we couldn't prove it. Now we can. Michelle stood up. I'm calling the district attorney. This case just got a lot bigger than custody. By 5:30 a.m., the sun was beginning to rise over Atlanta, and Marcus had not slept for 36 hours. His eyes burned. His body ached. But every time he thought about resting, he saw his daughter's face. He saw the word help written in dust. He saw the bruises on her arms, shaped like Vanessa's fingers. He went upstairs to check on Zoe. She was awake, sitting up in bed, clutching a stuffed elephant that Amara had given her before she died. Hey, baby girl, how long have you been up? Zoe signed slowly. I heard cars, people talking. Some friends came to help us, good people. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Today is going to be a strange day, Zoe. Some things are going to happen that might be scary, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Zoe nodded. Then she signed. Is the bad lady going away? Marcus felt his throat tighten. Yes, sweetheart, she's going away, and she's never coming back. For the first time in months, Zoe smiled. A real smile. The kind that used to light up the whole house before Vanessa came into their lives. At 7:15 a.m., Vanessa came downstairs dressed for travel. She was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit and carrying a Louis Vuitton bag. She froze when she saw Michelle Robinson sitting at the kitchen table with Detective Santos. "What is this?" Her voice was sharp, but Marcus could see the fear behind her eyes. "Marcus, who are these people?" Vanessa Cole Thompson, Detective Santos, stood up and pulled out her badge. "Atlanta Police Department. You're under arrest for child abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent." "This is insane." Vanessa backed toward the door. "Marcus, tell them this is a mistake." "It's no mistake." Marcus's voice was steady. "They have the recording, Vanessa, from my study. Every word you said last night." The color drained from Vanessa's face. For 1 second, the mask slipped completely, and Marcus saw the monster underneath. Pure hatred, pure rage. Then she lunged for the back door. She made it 3 steps before Detective Santos tackled her. They hit the ground hard, and Vanessa screamed, thrashing and clawing like a wild animal. "Get off me! You have no idea who you're dealing with. I have people, important people. You'll regret this." Santos pinned her arms behind her back and snapped on the handcuffs. "The only thing I regret is not getting here sooner." 2 uniformed officers entered through the front door and helped Santos lift Vanessa to her feet. Her perfect hair was disheveled. Her perfect makeup was smeared with tears of rage. She looked at Marcus with eyes that burned with hatred. "This isn't over. You think you've won? You haven't won anything. That little freak daughter of yours will never be normal. She'll never speak. She'll never be anything but a burden. And you'll spend the rest of your life knowing that." Marcus walked up to her close enough to see the veins pulsing in her temples. "Her name is Zoe. She's my daughter, and she's worth more than you could ever understand." He turned his back on her as the officers led her away. By 9:00 a.m., the news had spread through Buckhead like wildfire. Neighbors gathered on the sidewalk outside the Thompson estate, whispering and pointing. News vans began arriving by 10:00. By noon, the story was on every channel in Atlanta. Millionaire's wife arrested for child abuse and murder conspiracy. Marcus kept Zoe inside, away from the cameras and the chaos. Gloria came over at 11:30, tears streaming down her face as she hugged the little girl she had missed so desperately. "Oh, my sweet baby, my precious angel." Gloria held Zoe tight, rocking her back and forth. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." Zoe clung to Gloria like a lifeline. She signed against the old woman's shoulder, "I missed you. I missed you too, child. Every single day." At 2:00 p.m., Michelle called with an update. "The district attorney is expanding the investigation. They're looking into Amara's accident. The truck driver who hit her, a man named Jerome Wilson, died in prison 2 years ago, stabbed in a fight. But before he died, he told his cellmate that someone paid him $50,000 to run that red light." Marcus gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "Can they trace the money?" "They're working on it. Vanessa was careful, but nobody's perfect. She made mistakes. They always do." At 4:30 p.m., another bombshell dropped. Dr. Raymond Foster, the fake psychiatrist, was arrested at his office trying to shred documents. Among the papers police recovered was a file on Zoe Thompson filled with fabricated diagnoses and forged evaluation reports. There was also a file on 3 other children from wealthy families, children who had been institutionalized based on Foster's recommendations, children who had disappeared into the system and never come out. Detective Santos called Marcus personally. "This is bigger than we thought. Foster wasn't just working with Vanessa, he's part of a network. They target wealthy families with vulnerable children, manufacture mental health crises, and then profit from long-term institutionalization. We've identified at least 7 victims over the past decade." Marcus felt sick. How many more children did they hurt? "We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. Every single one." That evening, Marcus sat with Zoe in the living room while Gloria made dinner in the kitchen. The house felt different already, lighter, like a dark cloud had been lifted from every room. Zoe was drawing again, but her pictures had changed. No more dark rooms or scary women. She was drawing flowers, a garden, a sun that filled the entire top of the page. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." Marcus pointed to a figure in the drawing. "Who's that?" Zoe signed, "Mommy, in heaven, watching us." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "Yes, baby, Mommy is always watching, and she's so proud of you." Zoe added another figure to the drawing. Then she held it up and pointed, "That's you, Daddy, and that's me, and Miss Gloria, and that's our house without any more bad people." Marcus pulled her into his arms and held her close. Over her shoulder, he saw Gloria standing in the kitchen doorway, tears running down her weathered cheeks. "Dinner's ready," Gloria said softly. "Come eat while it's hot." They ate together at the kitchen table. Real food. Warm food. Gloria's famous fried chicken with mashed potatoes and collard greens. The recipes she had learned from her grandmother in Alabama. The recipes she had taught Amara. the recipes that tasted like home and safety and love. Zoe ate everything on her plate. Then she looked up at Gloria and signed, "More, please." Gloria laughed through her tears. "Baby, you can have all the more you want. We've got plenty." At 8:00 p.m., Marcus received a call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Thompson." The voice was male nervous, speaking quickly. "My name is David Chen. I'm a paralegal at Vincent Price's firm, the lawyer who was representing your wife." "What do you want?" "I want to help. I didn't know what they were doing. I swear I didn't know. But I found documents today. Documents that prove everything. The payments to the truck driver, the connection to Sheriff Dalton, the list of children Foster institutionalized." David's voice cracked. "I have a daughter too, Mir Thompson. She's 5 years old. When I saw what they did to your little girl, I couldn't stay silent anymore." Marcus's heart pounded. "Where are you?" "I'm at a gas station off I-85. I'm scared. Price knows I took the files. He's looking for me. Go to the Atlanta Police Department. Ask for Detective Keisha Santos. Tell her everything. She'll protect you." "They said they'd kill me if I talked. They said they'd hurt my family." "Detective Santos can protect your family too. But you have to trust her. You have to come forward." There was a long pause. Then David said, "Okay, I'll do it. For my daughter, for yours." The line went dead. Marcus immediately called Santos and told her about David Chen. She dispatched officers to intercept him and bring him safely to the station. By 10:30 p.m., David was in protective custody and the documents he had stolen were being analyzed by forensic accountants. The evidence was devastating. Wire transfers totaling over $2 million from Vanessa's offshore accounts to various recipients. Payments to Jerome Wilson, the truck driver. Payments to Raymond Foster. Payments to Sheriff Harold Dalton. Payments to Vincent Price, the lawyer who was supposed to represent her but was actually her co-conspirator. And buried in the files was something even more damning, a prenuptial agreement that Vanessa had forged, a document that gave her control of the Thompson estate in the event of Marcus's death or incapacitation, a document that included Zoe's trust fund worth $12 million. "She was going to kill you too," Michelle said when she called at midnight. "The plan was to institutionalize Zoe claim the trust fund and then eliminate you. She had already started laying the groundwork. Complaints about your mental state, suggestions that you were suicidal. She was building a case to have you committed or worse." Marcus sat in the darkness of his study, the phone pressed against his ear. How could I have been so blind? She was a professional, Marcus, a sociopath. They're experts at manipulation. They study their targets, learn their weaknesses, exploit their grief. You were vulnerable after Amara died. She saw that and used it. That doesn't make me feel better. It's not supposed to, but it is the truth, and the truth is what's going to put her away forever. The next morning, Thursday, Marcus woke to find Zoe already up and dressed. She had put on her favorite yellow dress, the one Amara had bought for her 3rd birthday, now several sizes too small, but still precious. She had tried to do her own hair, and the results were lopsided and tangled, but her face beamed with pride. "Look at you," Marcus said, kneeling down to her level. "Don't you look beautiful?" Zoe signed special day today. Bad lady gone. Want to look pretty. "You always look pretty, sweetheart, but let's see if Miss Gloria can help with your hair, okay?" Gloria spent an hour carefully washing and styling Zoe's natural hair into 2 perfect puffs with yellow ribbons that matched her dress. When she was finished, Zoe looked in the mirror and her face lit up like the sun. She turned to Gloria and signed, "I look like Mommy." Gloria had to leave the room to cry. At 10:00 a.m., Detective Santos arrived with an update. "Sheriff Dalton was arrested this morning. He tried to flee to Mexico, but we had agents waiting at the border. He's singing like a canary trying to cut a deal. He's confirmed everything. The payments from Vanessa, the cover-up of Amara's murder, the network of corrupt officials and professionals who helped them target wealthy families." "What about Vincent Price?" "Arrested at his office an hour ago. He's not talking yet, but with Dalton and Chen cooperating, he doesn't have to. We have enough to put him away for decades." Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "And Vanessa? She's being transferred to a federal facility this afternoon. The charges have been upgraded. Murder conspiracy, racketeering, child endangerment fraud. She's looking at life without parole." "What about her claims about having people everywhere, judges in her pocket?" Santos smiled grimly. "We're investigating every official she's had contact with. Anyone who helped her, protected her, or looked the other way is going down. This is the biggest corruption case Atlanta has seen in 20 years. That afternoon, Marcus took Zoe to visit Amara's grave for the first time since the funeral. They stood together under a magnolia tree looking down at the headstone that read, Amara Okonkwo Thompson, beloved wife and mother. Her love was her legacy. Zoe knelt down and placed a bouquet of yellow flowers on the grave. Then she signed to her father, Can I talk to Mommy? Of course, baby. She can hear you. Zoe closed her eyes and moved her hands, slowly signing words she had never spoken aloud. Hi, Mommy. It's Zoe. I miss you. Daddy found out what the bad lady did. She's going away forever. I'm safe now. Daddy takes care of me. Miss Gloria is back. I'm eating real food again. I drew you a picture. It has our house and a big sun and you watching from heaven. I hope you like it. I love you, Mommy. I'll come visit again soon. Marcus watched his daughter communicate with her mother, and he felt Amara's presence so strongly it nearly knocked him off his feet. The wind rustled through the magnolia leaves. A bird sang somewhere nearby. The sun broke through the clouds and bathed them both in golden light. She heard you, Marcus whispered. I know she did. On Friday, the medical examination confirmed what Marcus had feared. Zoe was severely malnourished. She had lost almost 20% of her body weight over the past 6 months. She had vitamin deficiencies, weakened bones, and scarring on her back consistent with repeated physical abuse. The doctors were amazed she had survived at all. She's a fighter, the pediatrician told Marcus. She has an incredible will to live. With proper nutrition and care, she'll recover physically. The psychological healing will take longer, but she has a strong foundation. Your love will make the difference. That same day, Dr. Angela Morrison conducted her first evaluation of Zoe. The child psychologist had worked with traumatized children for over 20 years, and she approached Zoe with patience and gentleness. She's remarkable, Dr. Morrison told Marcus afterward. Despite everything she's been through, she hasn't lost her capacity for trust. That's rare. Many children who experience this level of abuse completely shut down. They can't form attachments. They can't believe that anyone will ever be safe. Why is Zoe different? Because she had a foundation. The first 2 years of her life, she was surrounded by love. Amara Gloria you. That foundation sustained her through the darkness, and she never stopped believing you would come back for her. That faith saved her. On Saturday, the investigation took another turn. Forensic accountants discovered that Vanessa had been embezzling from Thompson Digital Solutions for over a year. She had created fake vendor accounts, submitted fraudulent invoices, and siphoned nearly $3 million into her offshore accounts. How did I miss this? Marcus asked his CFO during an emergency board meeting. She was clever. She targeted departments you don't review personally, small amounts at first, then larger as she got more confident. She also had help from inside. Your assistant, Patricia Morrison, has been cooperating with her for 6 months. Marcus felt like he had been punched in the gut. Patricia. She's been passing Vanessa information about your schedule, your communications, everything. That's why Gloria's calls never reached you. That's why you were kept in the dark about Zoe's condition. Patricia intercepted everything. Patricia was arrested that afternoon. She broke down crying in the interrogation room, confessing everything. Vanessa had promised her $500,000. She had promised to help Patricia's son get into a prestigious private school. She had promised that no one would ever get hurt. I didn't know about the abuse, Patricia sobbed. I swear I didn't know. She told me Zoe was sick, that she was getting help. She said I was protecting the family by keeping Mr. Thompson focused on business. Detective Santos was unmoved. You helped isolate a child from her father while she was being tortured. I don't care what you believed. You're going to prison. On Sunday morning, Marcus woke to find Zoe standing beside his bed, staring at him with those big dark eyes. Hey, sweetheart, what's wrong? She signed, I had a dream about Mommy. Marcus sat up and pulled her onto the bed beside him. Tell me about it. Mommy was here, in this room. She was smiling. She said she's proud of me. She said she loves us. She said everything is going to be okay now. Marcus felt tears slide down his cheeks. What else did she say? She said to tell you something. She signed slowly, carefully, like she wanted to get every word right. She said it's not your fault. The accident. It's not your fault, Daddy. She wants you to stop blaming yourself. For 5 years, Marcus had carried the weight of his wife's death. He had been behind the wheel that night. He had been the one driving. If only he had taken a different route. If only he had left 5 minutes earlier or later. If only he had seen that truck coming. The guilt had consumed him. It had driven him into his work. It had created the distance between him and his daughter. It had made him vulnerable to a predator like Vanessa. But now, sitting in his bedroom with his daughter in his arm, hearing the message his wife had sent from beyond Marcus, felt that weight begin to lift. Thank you, baby, he whispered. Thank you for telling me. Zoe hugged him tight. Then she pulled back and signed. Mommy said one more thing. What? She said the bad lady can't hurt us anymore, but we have to go to court. We have to tell the truth. And when we do, everything will be okay. Marcus kissed his daughter's forehead. Then that's exactly what we'll do. On Monday, the day before the emergency hearing, Michelle came to the house with a thick folder of documents. We've assembled a massive case. Testimony from Gloria Dr. Hayes, the Gardner neighbors, medical records, financial evidence, the security footage, Vanessa's confession, David Chen's documents. It's overwhelming. Will it be enough? More than enough. Judge Evelyn Carter is presiding. She's known for her fairness and her dedication to protecting children. Once she sees this evidence, Vanessa won't have a leg to stand on. That evening, Marcus sat down with Zoe and explained what would happen the next day. We're going to a place called a courtroom. There will be a lot of adults there. Some of them will ask questions. You don't have to speak out loud. You can sign or write or draw, whatever feels comfortable. Zoe signed will the bad lady be there. Yes, but she can't hurt you. There will be guards, and I'll be right beside you the whole time. Will she go to jail? Yes, sweetheart. She's going to jail for a very, very long time. Zoe was quiet for a moment, then she signed good. She should be punished for what she did to Mommy, and for what she did to me. Marcus pulled her close. Yes, baby, she should, and she will. At 9:00 p.m., Marcus received one final phone call. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but the voice on the other end was familiar. Mr. Thompson, this is Linda Green, your neighbor from across the street. Mrs. Green, what can I do for you? I need to tell you something I should have said a long time ago. The elderly woman's voice trembled. I saw things I tried to ignore. I heard your daughter crying from that shed. I saw your wife dragging her across the yard, but I didn't say anything. I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself your wife knew best. Mrs. Green, no, let me finish. I was a coward. I saw a child suffering and I looked the other way because it was easier, because I didn't want trouble, because your wife brought me cookies and smiled so sweetly. Linda was crying now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up. If I had said something sooner, maybe... Mrs. Green, listen to me. You're speaking up now. That matters. Will you testify tomorrow? Will you tell the court what you saw? There was a long pause. Then, yes, I will. It's the least I can do. Thank you. That takes courage. No, Linda said quietly. Courage was your daughter surviving that nightmare. I'm just finally doing what I should have done from the beginning. Marcus hung up the phone and looked at the clock. In 12 hours, they would walk into that courtroom. In 12 hours, the final battle would begin. He went to Zoe's room one last time. She was asleep, her face peaceful, her hands curled around that old stuffed elephant. He bent down and kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, he whispered. Tomorrow we finish this. Tomorrow we get justice. For you, for Mommy, for our whole family. Outside, the night was dark and quiet. But somewhere in a federal holding facility across the city, Vanessa Cole Thompson sat in a cell staring at the wall, her mind racing through schemes and strategies. She wasn't finished yet. She still had one card left to play, and she intended to play it when it would hurt the most. Tuesday morning arrived gray and cold with heavy clouds hanging over Atlanta like a warning. Marcus was awake at 5:00 a.m. standing at his bedroom window watching the first light creep across the sky. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Vanessa's face. He heard her voice confessing to Amara's murder. He imagined all the ways today could go wrong. At 6:30 a.m., Gloria helped Zoe get dressed in a simple blue dress with white flowers. The child was quiet, her face serious beyond her years. She understood what today meant. She understood that everything depended on what happened in that courtroom. You look beautiful, baby, Gloria said, adjusting the ribbon in Zoe's hair. Your mama would be so proud of you. Zoe signed, I'm scared. Gloria knelt down and took the little girl's hands in her own. I know you are child. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right even when you're terrified. And today, you're going to be the bravest person in that whole courthouse. Marcus came downstairs at 7:15 a.m. wearing his best dark suit. Michelle Robinson was already waiting in the living room, her briefcase open on the coffee table, going over last-minute details with Detective Santos. We have a problem, Michelle said as soon as Marcus entered. Vanessa fired Vincent Price last night. She's representing herself. Marcus frowned. Why would she do that? Because she wants to question the witnesses directly, including Zoe. Michelle's jaw tightened. She's going to try to intimidate your daughter on the stand. Can we stop her? We can object. Judge Carter can limit her questioning, but we can't prevent it entirely. Vanessa has constitutional rights even as a defendant. Marcus looked at his daughter sitting on the couch, her small hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the floor. The thought of Vanessa attacking her with questions, twisting her words, trying to break her spirit, made his blood boil. I won't let her hurt Zoe again. Not in that courtroom. Not anywhere. Then we need to prepare her. Michelle walked over and sat beside Zoe. Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about something important. The bad lady might try to ask you questions today. She might say mean things. She might try to confuse you. But I need you to remember one thing. You don't have to say anything you don't want to say. If you get scared, you look at your daddy, and if you need to stop, you just raise your hand. Okay. Zoe nodded slowly. Then she signed. What if she lies? What if she makes everyone think I'm the bad one? Michelle took the child's hands gently. The truth always wins, Zoe. Always. And today the whole world is going to hear your truth. They arrived at the Fulton County Courthouse at 8:45 a.m. A crowd of reporters had gathered outside, cameras flashing microphones thrust forward. Marcus shielded Zoe as they pushed through the chaos, Gloria on one side, Detective Santos on the other. Mr. Thompson, is it true your wife murdered your first wife? Zoe, can you tell us what happened to you? Mr. Thompson, how do you respond to allegations that you were negligent? Marcus ignored them all. He kept his hand on his daughter's shoulder, guiding her through the courthouse doors into the relative quiet of the lobby. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Family members of other victims sat on benches, their faces drawn with worry and hope. David Chen was there with his wife and daughter, protected by 2 marshals. Gloria sat down heavily, her hands shaking as she clutched her purse. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, the bailiff called the case. All rise. The Honorable Judge Evelyn Carter presiding. Judge Carter entered through the side door. She was a tall black woman in her early 60s with silver hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. She had been on the bench for 30 years. She had seen the worst of humanity and had dedicated her career to protecting those who could not protect themselves. Be seated. Judge Carter arranged her papers and looked out at the packed courtroom. This is an emergency hearing in the matter of Thompson versus Cole Thompson with additional criminal charges filed by the state of Georgia. We are here to determine custody of the minor child Zoe Thompson and to examine evidence related to charges of child abuse fraud, conspiracy, and murder. She looked directly at Vanessa, who sat alone at the defendant's table. Mrs. Cole Thompson, I understand you have chosen to represent yourself. Is that correct? Vanessa stood. Even in her prison jumpsuit, she carried herself with an air of superiority. That is correct, Your Honor. I believe I am best equipped to defend myself against these ridiculous accusations. Very well. Be advised that you will be held to the same standards as any attorney. Outbursts will not be tolerated. Harassment of witnesses will result in removal from this courtroom. Do you understand perfectly, Your Honor? Judge Carter turned to Michelle. Counselor, you may call your first witness. Michelle stood. The state calls Gloria Williams. Gloria walked to the witness stand with her head held high. She placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then she sat down and faced the courtroom. Mrs. Williams, please state your relationship to the Thompson family. I was the housekeeper for Marcus and Amara Thompson for 12 years. I helped raise their daughter Zoe from the day she was born. And what was your relationship with the defendant? Gloria's eyes flickered to Vanessa. She fired me 6 months ago, accused me of stealing, threatened to destroy my reputation if I ever spoke to Mr. Marcus again. Why did she fire you? Because I saw what she was doing to that child, because I tried to stop it, because I tried to reach Mr. Marcus and tell him the truth. Michelle walked Gloria through her testimony methodically. The food deprivation, the physical abuse, the isolation in the garden shed, the photographs she had secretly taken. Each piece of evidence was entered into the record. Each detail added another brick to the wall of bulletproof building against Vanessa. When Michelle finished, Vanessa stood for cross-examination. She walked toward Gloria slowly, her heels clicking against the floor. Mrs. Williams, you claim you witnessed abuse in my household, yet you continued to work there for months. Why didn't you call the police? I was afraid. You threatened me. Threatened you how? You said you would have me arrested. You said no one would believe a black housekeeper over a white woman of your social standing. Vanessa smiled coldly. So you admit you never actually saw me harm Zoe. You only saw the aftermath and assumed. Gloria's eyes blazed. I saw the bruises on that child's body. I saw the terror in her eyes every time you walked into a room. I heard her crying in that shed while you stood outside, laughing. You heard crying. You assumed it was distress. But isn't it true that Zoe has serious psychological problems, that she often has episodes where she cries for no reason? That child was not mentally ill. She was abused by you. Vanessa turned to the judge. I move to strike that statement as speculation. Overruled, Judge Carter said flatly. The witness has personal knowledge of the child's condition. Continue. Vanessa's smile flickered but held. No further questions. At 10:30 a.m., Michelle called her second witness. The state calls Dr. Patricia Hayes. The pediatrician took the stand and presented Zoe's medical records. Weight charts showing dramatic decline. Blood tests revealing severe malnutrition. Photographs of injuries documented during examinations. In your professional opinion, Dr. Hayes, what caused these conditions? Prolonged neglect and physical abuse. There is no other explanation consistent with the evidence. Vanessa's cross-examination was aggressive. Doctor, isn't it true that selective mutism often accompanies eating disorders, that children who don't speak often have difficulty eating as well? Selective mutism is a psychological condition related to anxiety. It does not cause malnutrition to this degree. Only deliberate food deprivation could produce these results. But you can't prove I was the one who deprived her of food. You can only prove she was malnourished. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. I can prove that this child was healthy before you entered her life and nearly dead 6 months after you took over her care. The mathematics speak for themselves. At 11:15 a.m., the prosecution played the security footage. The courtroom watched in horrified silence as Vanessa dragged Zoe across the floor. They heard her screaming insults at the child. They saw her force the little girl into the shed and slam the door. They watched Zoe curl up alone in the darkness, writing help in the dust with her tiny finger. Several people in this gallery began crying. A woman in the back row had to leave. Judge Carter's face remained impassive, but her hands gripped her gavel so tightly her knuckles turned white. When the footage ended, Michelle spoke quietly. No further evidence needed, Your Honor. The videos speak for themselves. Vanessa stood. I would like to cross-examine the person who recorded this footage. The footage was recorded by an automated security system, Michelle replied. There is no human witness to cross-examine. Then I object to its admission. There is no way to verify it hasn't been doctored. Judge Carter shook her head. The forensic technician has certified the footage as authentic. Your objection is overruled. At 12:00 p.m., the court broke for lunch. Marcus took Zoe to a private room away from the crowds. Gloria brought sandwiches, but neither of them could eat. You're doing great, sweetheart, Marcus told his daughter. Just a little longer? We're almost there. Zoe signed. When do I have to talk after lunch? But remember, you can stop any time you need to. Just raise your hand. Zoe looked at the floor for a long moment. Then she signed, I want to tell them everything. I want everyone to know what she did, so she can never do it to another kid. Marcus felt his heart swell with pride and anguish. His 7-year-old daughter had more courage than most adults he knew. Then that's exactly what you'll do. At 1:30 p.m., the court reconvened. Michelle called her most important witness. The state calls Zoe Thompson. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Zoe walked to the witness stand slowly, her yellow dress bright against the dark wood. She climbed into the chair, her feet dangling above the floor. She looked so small, so fragile, so incredibly brave. Zoe, you don't have to speak out loud if you don't want to, Judge Carter said gently. We have an interpreter here who knows sign language. You can communicate however feels most comfortable. Zoe nodded. She looked at her father. Marcus smiled at her, pouring all his love into that smile. Michelle approached carefully. Zoe, I'm going to ask you some questions. Take your time. If you need a break, just raise your hand, okay? Zoe nodded again. Can you tell us about the place you called the bad place? Zoe's hands began to move. The interpreter spoke her words aloud. It was the shed in the garden. She put me there when Daddy was away, sometimes for hours, sometimes for whole days. It was dark and cold, and there were bugs. Who put you there? Zoe pointed directly at Vanessa. The interpreter said her, the bad lady. Why did she put you there? She said I was in the way. She said I reminded her of Mommy. She said she hated looking at my face because I have my mommy's eyes. A woman in the gallery sobbed. Judge Carter held up her hand for silence. Did she ever hurt you physically? Zoe nodded. Her hands trembled as she signed. She hit me. She pulled my hair. She scratched me. One time she pushed me down the stairs and told Daddy I fell. Did you try to tell your father what was happening? I can't talk. I tried to show him. I drew pictures. I left notes, but she always found them first. She burned them. Michelle walked to the evidence table and picked up a drawing. "Is this one of your pictures?" Zoe looked at it and nodded. "Can you tell us what it shows?" "That's me in the bad place. That's her standing outside. That's the lock on the door. And that word at the bottom says help." Michelle entered the drawing into evidence. Then she asked the question everyone had been waiting for. "Zoe, did the defendant ever say anything about your mother about what happened to her?" Zoe's whole body went still. She looked at her father. She looked at Vanessa. Then she began to sign slowly and deliberately. "One night, she thought I was asleep, but I was hiding under my bed because I heard her coming. She was on the phone with someone. She said..." Zoe paused, her hands shaking. "She said Mommy was supposed to die in that accident. She said it was supposed to look like an accident. She said the only mistake was that I survived, too." The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed for the doors. People shouted in outrage. Judge Carter banged her gavel repeatedly. "Order, order in this court." It took 3 full minutes to restore calm. When silence finally returned, Judge Carter looked at Vanessa with undisguised contempt. "Mrs. Cole-Thompson, you will have your opportunity to cross-examine, but I warn you, if you badger or intimidate this child in any way, I will hold you in contempt and remove you from these proceedings." Vanessa stood slowly. She walked toward the witness stand, her eyes never leaving Zoe's face. "You say you heard me on the phone, but you were hiding under your bed. How could you hear clearly from there?" Zoe signed. "My room was next to yours. The walls are thin. I heard everything. But you admit you can't speak. How do we know you understand what you heard? How do we know you're not just repeating things your father told you to say?" Objection. Michelle was on her feet. "Counsel is badgering the witness." Sustained. "Mrs. Cole-Thompson, rephrase your question." Vanessa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let me ask you this, Zoe. Did you ever see me physically harm you, or did you only feel things in the dark that you assumed were me?" Zoe's hands moved rapidly. "I saw your face every time you hit me. I saw your red nails when you scratched my back. I saw your eyes when you told me you wished I was dead." Vanessa's composure cracked for just a moment. "You're lying. You're a disturbed child who makes up stories for attention." Objection. Sustained. "Mrs. Cole-Thompson, one more outburst and I will end your cross-examination." Vanessa took a breath, visibly collecting herself. No further questions. But as she turned to walk back to her table, she leaned close to Zoe and whispered something. Something only the two of them could hear. Zoe's face went white. Her whole body began to tremble. She grabbed the edge of the witness stand with both hands. "Your Honor." Marcus was on his feet. "She said something to my daughter." Judge Carter's eyes blazed. "What did you say to this child?" Vanessa turned with an expression of pure innocence. "I simply told her that her mother would be ashamed of her for lying." That was when Zoe did something no one expected. She opened her mouth, and for the first time in 5 years, she spoke. "My mother would never be ashamed of me." Her voice was small and cracked from years of silence, but every word rang clear. "She loved me. She protected me. And she's watching right now. She sees everything you did." The courtroom went absolutely silent. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. Gloria collapsed against the woman beside her, sobbing. Even Judge Carter had to remove her glasses and wipe her eyes. Zoe continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I was scared of you for so long. I thought nobody would believe me because I couldn't talk. But I found my voice, and I'm using it to tell the truth. You hurt me. You killed my mommy, and now everyone knows who you really are." She turned to face Vanessa directly. "I'm not scared of you anymore." Vanessa's mask finally shattered. Her face twisted with rage, and she lunged toward the witness stand. "You little freak, I should have finished you when I had the chance." Bailiffs grabbed her before she could reach Zoe. She thrashed in their grip, screaming obscenities. "Get off me! This isn't over! You hear me, Marcus? This isn't over!" Judge Carter stood, her voice thundering through the chaos. "Remove the defendant from this courtroom immediately. This hearing is in recess for 15 minutes. They dragged Vanessa out through the side door, her screams echoing off the walls until they faded into silence. Marcus rushed to the witness stand and lifted Zoe into his arms. She was shaking violently, but she wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. "You spoke," he whispered. "Baby, you spoke." Zoe pulled back and looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "Mommy helped me," she said. Her voice was raspy and uncertain, like an instrument being played after years of silence. "She was right here with me. I could feel her." Gloria pushed through the crowd and wrapped them both in her arms. The three of them stood there, in the middle of the courtroom, crying and holding each other while the world spun chaos around them. At 3:15 p.m., the court reconvened. Vanessa had been returned to her seat, now flanked by 2 armed bailiffs. Her hair was disheveled. Her eyes were wild. She looked nothing like the polished socialite who had walked into the courtroom that morning. Judge Carter addressed the room. "Before we proceed, I want to acknowledge what we just witnessed. A 7-year-old child who has not spoken in 5 years found her voice to tell the truth. That took more courage than most adults possess in a lifetime." She turned to Vanessa. "Mrs. Cole Thompson, your behavior was reprehensible. Your attempt to intimidate a child witness will be added to the charges against you, and your outburst has only reinforced everything the prosecution has presented." "I have rights," Vanessa shouted. "You can't silence me." "I can and I will if you continue to disrupt these proceedings." Judge Carter's voice was ice. "You have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you exercise it." Michelle stood. "Your Honor, the prosecution rests. We believe we have presented overwhelming evidence of the defendant's guilt on all charges." Judge Carter nodded. "Mrs. Cole Thompson, you may present your defense." Vanessa stood slowly. The fire had gone out of her eyes, replaced by something cold and calculating. "I would like to call a witness, someone who can speak to my character and my care for that child." Michelle frowned. The defendant did not submit a witness list. "I'm calling a rebuttal witness, someone who saw things the prosecution conveniently ignored." Judge Carter considered. "Who do you wish to call?" Vanessa smiled. "I call Sheriff Harold Dalton." A murmur swept through the courtroom. Marcus looked at Michelle, who shook her head in confusion. "Sheriff Dalton is in federal custody," Judge Carter said. "He cannot testify. Then I request a video deposition taken this morning, my right to present a defense." Judge Carter hesitated. "I'll allow it, but be warned, Mrs. Cole Thompson, this had better be relevant." A screen was wheeled into the courtroom. The video began to play. Sheriff Dalton appeared on screen, his face haggard, his orange jumpsuit a stark contrast to his former authority. He cleared his throat and began to speak. "I've known Vanessa Cole Thompson for 3 years. During that time, I observed her care for her stepdaughter Zoe on multiple occasions. I never witnessed any abuse. I saw a loving stepmother trying to manage a difficult child with severe mental health issues." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What was happening?" Dalton continued. "In fact, I have evidence that suggests Marcus Thompson himself may have been aware of his daughter's supposed abuse and chose to ignore it. Bank records show he paid significant sums to institutions that warehouse difficult children. He was planning to send Zoe away long before Vanessa entered the picture." "That's a lie." Marcus jumped to his feet. "I never planned to send my daughter anywhere." "Order." Judge Carter banged her gavel. "Mr. Thompson, sit down." Vanessa smiled triumphantly. "As you can see, Your Honor, there are 2 sides to every story. Perhaps the prosecution should have investigated Mr. Thompson's own involvement before pointing fingers at me." Michelle was already on her feet. "Your Honor, this is clearly fabricated testimony from a co-conspirator trying to reduce his sentence. Sheriff Dalton has been charged with bribery and corruption. His testimony is worthless." "The testimony is on record," Vanessa said smoothly. "The jury can decide its weight." "There is no jury in this hearing," Judge Carter replied coldly, "and I have seen enough." She shuffled her papers and took a long breath. "I am prepared to render my verdict on the emergency custody matter. The criminal charges will be addressed separately by a jury trial." The courtroom went silent. Marcus gripped the edge of his table. Zoe reached for his hand. "In the matter of custody of the minor child, Zoe Thompson, I find as follows." Judge Carter looked directly at Vanessa. "The evidence presented in this courtroom is overwhelming and irrefutable. Video footage shows the defendant physically and emotionally abusing the child over an extended period. Medical records document severe neglect and malnutrition. Witness testimony confirms a pattern of deliberate cruelty. And the defendant's own words, both recorded in the Thompson home and spoken in this courtroom, demonstrate a complete lack of remorse or humanity." She paused. "Furthermore, the defendant's confession to involvement in the death of Amara Thompson, witnessed by multiple people in this courtroom, elevates this case from child abuse to conspiracy to commit murder." Vanessa's smile faded. "Full custody of Zoe Thompson is hereby awarded to her father, Marcus Thompson. The defendant is stripped of all parental rights effective immediately. She is forbidden from any contact with the child, direct or indirect, for the remainder of her natural life." Marcus felt the tension drain from his body. Beside him, Zoe squeezed his hand. "As for the defendant herself," Judge Carter continued, "I am recommending to the district attorney that all charges be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. Child abuse, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with witnesses, attempted intimidation, and based on her outburst today, assault. She fixed Vanessa with a stare that could have cut through steel. "Mrs. Cole Thompson, you are a predator. You targeted a grieving man and his vulnerable daughter. You murdered his wife and spent years positioning yourself to steal his fortune and dispose of his child. You are exactly the kind of monster this court was designed to stop." Vanessa stood slowly. The mask was completely gone now. Only hatred remained. "You think you've won. You think this is over? I have money hidden in places you'll never find. I have contacts you don't know about. I will get out. And when I do, you will do nothing." Judge Carter's voice cut through like a blade. "Because you will spend the rest of your miserable life in a federal prison. Bailiffs remove the defendant." They came for Vanessa again. This time she didn't fight. She walked calmly toward the door, her heels clicking against the floor one final time. But as she passed Marcus, she stopped. The bailiffs paused, hands on her arms. She looked at Zoe. Her eyes were empty pits of darkness. "You think you found your voice, little girl? Enjoy it while it lasts. Some things can't be unsaid. Some nightmares never end." And then she was gone. The courtroom erupted into noise and motion. Reporters rushed for the exits. Family members hugged and cried. But Marcus stood perfectly still, his daughter in his arms, letting the magnitude of what had just happened wash over him. It was over. After 5 years of guilt. After 18 months of blindness. After weeks of horror and investigation and fear. It was finally over. Zoe tugged at his sleeve. He looked down at her tear-stained face. "Daddy," she said, and the word was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. "Can we go home now?" Marcus pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. "Yes, baby, let's go home." They walked out of the courtroom together, Gloria on one side, Michelle on the other. The reporters shouted questions. The cameras flashed. The world wanted a piece of their story. But Marcus didn't care about any of that. He had his daughter back. He had the truth. And somewhere watching from a place beyond the clouds, Amara was smiling. The drive home from the courthouse felt different than any Marcus had ever taken. The streets of Atlanta looked the same. The traffic moved at its usual crawl. But everything had changed. His daughter sat beside him in the back seat, her small hand clasped in his, and for the first time in 5 years she was speaking. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Her voice was still rough, still uncertain like a radio signal fighting through static, but it was the most beautiful sound Marcus had ever heard. "We can get whatever you want, sweetheart, whatever you want." They stopped at a small ice cream shop in Midtown that Amara used to love. Marcus ordered chocolate for himself and strawberry for Zoe. They sat at a table by the window, and Zoe ate her ice cream with the kind of focus that broke his heart. She ate like someone who had learned that food could disappear at any moment. She ate like someone who had spent months surviving on scraps. "Is it good?" Marcus asked. Zoe nodded, a smear of pink on her chin. "Miss Gloria makes better." Marcus laughed. It was the first real laugh he had produced in months. "Don't tell her that. She'll get a big head." "I want to tell her." Zoe set down her spoon and looked at her father with those serious eyes. "I want to tell everyone everything now. I was quiet for so long. I don't want to be quiet anymore." Marcus reached across the table and wiped the ice cream from her chin with a napkin. "Then you talk as much as you want, baby girl. The whole world is ready to listen." They arrived home at 4:30 p.m. to find Gloria waiting on the front porch. The old woman had tears streaming down her face before they even got out of the car. She rushed down the steps and pulled Zoe into her arms. "My baby, my sweet, brave baby, I heard you speak in that courtroom. I heard you tell that monster exactly who she was." Zoe hugged her back tightly. "I missed your voice too, Miss Gloria. When she sent you away, the house got so quiet. Not just because I couldn't talk, because you weren't there to fill it up with songs and stories." Gloria pulled back and cupped Zoe's face in her weathered hands. "I'm never leaving again. You hear me, never? They're going to have to drag me out of this house in a box." "Don't talk about boxes," Zoe said. "Mommy is in a box. I don't like boxes." Gloria's face crumpled, but she pulled herself together. "You're right, child. No more boxes, only open doors from now on." That evening, they ate dinner together at the big kitchen table. Gloria had spent the afternoon cooking everything Zoe loved. Fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens with ham hocks, sweet potato pie for dessert. The recipes she had learned from her grandmother. The recipes she had taught to Amara. The recipes that tasted like love made solid. Zoe ate 3 helpings of everything. Marcus watched her with a mixture of joy and sorrow. Joy that she was eating. Sorrow that she had been starved to the point where this much food seemed like a miracle. "Slow down, baby," he said gently. "The food isn't going anywhere." Zoe looked up at him, a drumstick in one hand and a biscuit in the other. Promise? I promise. There will always be enough. There will always be more. She considered this for a moment. Then she nodded and continued eating, though at a slightly slower pace. After dinner, Marcus carried Zoe upstairs for her bath. As he helped her wash her hair, he noticed the scars. Thin white lines across her back where nails had scratched deep enough to leave permanent marks. A faded bruise on her shoulder that had never fully healed. The evidence of months of cruelty written on her small body. Do they hurt? He asked softly. Zoe shook her head. Not anymore. They used to hurt a lot, but now they're just lines. Miss Gloria says they're battle scars. She says warriors have them. You are a warrior, the bravest one I've ever known. Zoe turned to look at him. Soap bubbles clinging to her hair. Mommy was braver. She fought until the end. The bad lady told me that Mommy tried to protect me in the car. She put her body over mine. That's why I lived and she died. Marcus felt his throat close up. He had never known this detail. The police report had said Amara died on impact. He had assumed it was instant, painless. He had never considered that his wife's last act on Earth was shielding their daughter with her own body. How do you know that? The bad lady told me. She said it like it was a bad thing. She said Mommy should have let me die instead. But I think it was the most beautiful thing anyone ever did. Marcus pulled his daughter close, not caring that she was wet and covered in soap. He held her and cried into her hair while she patted his back with her small hands. It's okay, Daddy. Mommy isn't sad anymore. She's in heaven watching us. She told me so in my dream. When did you have this dream? The night before the court. She came to my room. She was wearing her white dress, the one she wore when she married you. She sat on my bed and touched my face and said she was proud of me. She said I was going to find my voice the next day. And she said to tell you something. What did she say? Zoe pulled back and looked at him with Amara's eyes. She said you were the best husband she ever could have asked for. She said the accident wasn't your fault. She said you need to stop blaming yourself and start living again. For me, for her, for all of us. Marcus couldn't speak. He could barely breathe. His 7-year-old daughter was delivering a message from beyond the grave, and every word rang with a truth he had needed to hear for 5 years. She also said one more thing. Zoe's voice dropped to a whisper. She said there's a box in the attic, a blue box with stars on it. She said you should open it. At 9:00 p.m. after Zoe was asleep, Marcus climbed the narrow stairs to the attic. He hadn't been up there since Amara died. Couldn't bear to face the memories stored among the dusty boxes and forgotten furniture. The attic smelled like mothballs and old paper. Marcus pulled the cord on the single bare bulb and blinked in the weak yellow light. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled in Amara's neat handwriting. Christmas decorations, baby clothes, college textbooks, wedding photos. And there in the far corner was a blue box with silver stars painted on the lid. Marcus's hands shook as he pulled it down and set it on the floor. He lifted the lid and found himself looking at a collection of items he had never seen before. A leather journal, a stack of photographs, a small velvet pouch, and an envelope with his name written on it in Amara's handwriting. He opened the envelope first. My dearest Marcus. The letter began. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and something has led you to this box. I always believed things happen for a reason, even when we can't understand them. I created this box because I wanted to leave something behind. Not things, not money, but pieces of my heart that I want you and Zoe to carry with you always. Marcus read the letter through blurring tears. Amara wrote about their love story, how they met in college, their first date at a jazz club in New Orleans, the moment she knew she wanted to marry him, her dreams for Zoe, her hopes for their future, and then she wrote something that stopped his breath. I've been having strange dreams lately, dreams about a woman with yellow hair who wants to hurt our family. I don't know what they mean, maybe nothing. But I want you to promise me something. If anything ever happens to me, protect our daughter. Don't let anyone come between you and Zoe. She's going to need you in ways you can't imagine. Be present. Be patient. Be the father I know you can be. Marcus set the letter down and stared at the wall. Amara had known. Somehow on some level she had sensed the danger coming. She had tried to warn him from beyond time itself. He opened the velvet pouch and found a necklace. A simple gold chain with a small pendant shaped like a butterfly. Amara had worn this every day of their marriage. It had been lost in the accident, the police said. They couldn't find it in the wreckage. But here it was, safe, waiting. Marcus clutched the necklace in his hand and wept. The next morning, Wednesday, Marcus woke to find Zoe standing beside his bed again. This was becoming a pattern, But unlike before, she wasn't scared or worried. She was smiling. Miss Gloria is making pancakes, chocolate chip ones. She says to come down before they get cold. Marcus looked at the clock. 7:15 a.m. He had slept more deeply than he had in months. Tell her I'll be right there. Zoe didn't leave. She stood there looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What is it, sweetheart? I had another dream about Mommy. What did she say this time? She said you found the box. She said you cried. But she wants you to know they were good tears. Healing tears. She said crying washes out the poison so new things can grow. Marcus sat up and pulled his daughter onto the bed beside him. Your mama was the wisest person I ever knew, and you're just like her. Really. Really. You have her eyes, her smile, her courage, and now you have her voice too. Zoe considered this. I think I have my own voice. But Mommy helped me find it, like she was holding the flashlight while I walked through the dark. At 10:00 a.m., Detective Santos called with an update. The district attorney has officially filed murder charges against Vanessa, first-degree murder for Amara Thompson, attempted murder for Zoe. The evidence is airtight. Between the confession in your study, the financial records, and the testimony we've gathered from Jerome Wilson's cellmate, there's no way she walks. What about the others, Foster, Dalton, Price? Foster is cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's given us everything. Names, dates, methods. We've identified 9 other children who were institutionalized based on his fake evaluations. We're working with families across 4 states to bring them home. 9 other children. Marcus felt sick. How many of them are still alive? Santos paused. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy. 7. 2 died in the facilities where they were placed. Neglect. Abuse. The same thing Zoe experienced, but without anyone to save them. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about those children, other little boys and girls who had no one to fight for them, other parents who had been manipulated and deceived. What happens now? Now we take down everyone involved. Every corrupt official. Every dirty doctor. Every facility that looked the other way. This investigation is going to reshape child protective services in Georgia, maybe the whole country. Good, Marcus said. It's about damn time. That afternoon, Angela Morrison came to the house for Zoe's first official therapy session. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice, and Zoe took to her immediately. I like her, Zoe announced after the session. She doesn't treat me like I'm broken. She treats me like I'm a puzzle she wants to help me solve. That's exactly what good therapists do, as Marcus said. They help you find the pieces you didn't know you were missing. I think I'm missing a lot of pieces, but I'm starting to find them, like my voice. That was a big piece, and trusting people again, that's another piece. What pieces are you still looking for? Zoe thought about it. I want to stop being scared of the dark. I want to sleep without nightmares. I want to forget what her face looked like when she was angry. She paused. But Dr. Morrison says I shouldn't forget. She says I should remember and then put the memories in a box where they can't hurt me anymore. Like the box in the attic. Different kind of box, an invisible one that lives in my mind. She says I can put all the bad things in there and lock it up. Then the bad things are still there, but they're not running around loose anymore. Marcus marveled at his daughter's ability to articulate complex emotional concepts. She was 7 years old and speaking with wisdom beyond her years. That sounds like a very good plan. Dr. Morrison gave me homework. I have to draw a picture of my invisible box. I have to decide what goes inside and what stays outside. She says the things that stay outside are the things I want to keep, the things that make me who I am. What are you going to keep? Zoe smiled. You, Miss Gloria, Mommy's memory, my new voice, ice cream, and the butterflies in Mommy's garden. At 4:00 p.m. a news van pulled up outside the house. Marcus watched from the window as a reporter and cameraman set up on the sidewalk. He had refused all interview requests, but the media was persistent. His phone rang. Michelle Robinson. Have you seen the news? There's a van outside my house right now. Not local news, national. Your story has gone viral, Marcus. Everyone is talking about the millionaire who saved his daughter from a monster. CNN wants an exclusive, so does ABC, NBC, and about a dozen others. Marcus sighed. I don't want to parade Zoe in front of cameras. She's been through enough. I understand, but consider this. Your story could help other families. It could raise awareness about child abuse in wealthy households. It could push for reforms in how psychiatrists are licensed and monitored. You have a platform now. The question is what you want to do with it. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was in the living room helping Gloria fold laundry. She was chattering away about her therapy session, about the butterfly necklace he had given her that morning, about the chocolate chip pancakes and whether they could have them again tomorrow. "Let me think about it," he said. "Let me talk to Zoe." That evening after dinner, Marcus sat down with his daughter in the living room. "Baby, I need to ask you something important. A lot of people want to hear our story. They want to put us on TV and in newspapers. They want the whole world to know what happened." Zoe's eyes went wide. "Why? Because what happened to us happens to other families too. There are other children out there being hurt by people who are supposed to love them. If we share our story, maybe we can help them. Maybe we can make sure no other kid goes through what you went through." "Would I have to talk?" "Only if you want to. You could be there without saying anything, or you could stay home entirely. This is your choice, sweetheart. Nobody is going to force you." Zoe was quiet for a long moment. She twisted her hands in her lap, a habit she had developed during the months of abuse. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take all the time you need." At 9:00 p.m., Marcus was in his study reviewing emails when Zoe appeared in the doorway. She was wearing her pajamas, her hair still damp from her bath, the butterfly necklace glinting at her throat. "I thought about it." Marcus set his laptop aside. "And I want to do it. I want to tell everyone." She walked into the room and climbed onto his lap. "When I was in the dark, I used to pretend someone was coming to save me. I used to imagine a hero breaking down the door and carrying me out. But no hero came. You came, Daddy, but only because you found out by accident. What about all the other kids who are still waiting? What about the ones whose daddies don't know?" Marcus held her close, overwhelmed by her courage. "If telling our story helps even one kid get saved, then it's worth it. That's what Mommy would want. She would want us to help people." "Are you sure, sweetheart, there will be cameras? Lots of questions. It might be scary." Zoe shook her head. "Nothing is scarier than what already happened. I survived that. I can survive some cameras." On Thursday, Marcus called Michelle and told her to arrange an interview. She set it up for Saturday with a primetime news program that had promised to handle the story with sensitivity and respect. But before the interview, there was something else Marcus needed to do. On Friday morning, he drove to the federal detention center where Vanessa was being held. He told himself he needed closure. He told himself he needed to look in her eyes one last time and know that she could never hurt his family again. The visiting room was cold and sterile. Vanessa was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her wrists shackled to a chain around her waist. She looked older, smaller. The glamour had been stripped away, leaving nothing but the hollow shell of a woman who had gambled everything and lost. She sat down across from him, separated by thick glass. Her eyes were the same though, cold, calculating, empty of anything resembling humanity. "Come to gloat?" she asked. "I came to understand. I've been asking myself for days how I could have been so blind, how I could have married you and never seen what you really were." Vanessa laughed. "You saw exactly what you wanted to see, Marcus. A beautiful woman who paid attention to you, a warm body in your bed, a solution to your guilt. You didn't want to look too closely because you were afraid of what you might find. You're wrong. I trusted you because I thought you loved my daughter." "Love." She spat the word like it was poison. "That's your problem, Marcus. You think love is some magical force that makes everything better. It's not. Love is weakness. It's a leash people put around their own necks. I never loved anyone in my entire life, and look how far I got. You got here, in prison, facing life without parole." Vanessa's smile didn't waver. "Temporary setback. You'd be surprised how many people I know, how many favors I'm owed. The wheels are already turning, Marcus. Don't get too comfortable." Marcus leaned forward until his face was inches from the glass. "Let me tell you something, Vanessa. My daughter spoke for the first time in 5 years to testify against you. She found her voice because of what you did. She's stronger now than she's ever been. And if you think for 1 second that any of your threats or schemes will ever touch her again, you're even more delusional than I thought." Vanessa's smile finally cracked. For just a moment, Marcus saw the rage beneath. The same rage that had contorted her face when she lunged at Zoe in the courtroom. "That freak daughter of yours will never be normal. She'll grow up damaged and broken, and every time you look at her, you'll see me. Every nightmare she has, every panic attack, every moment of fear, I'll be there, in her head, forever." Marcus stood up. "No, Vanessa, you'll be forgotten. You'll rot in this place until you die, and nobody will remember your name. But Zoe will live. She'll grow up and fall in love and have children of her own. She'll accomplish things you can't even imagine, and your only legacy will be a cautionary tale about what happens when evil meets justice." He turned and walked away. Behind him, he heard Vanessa screaming, "This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over." But it was, and they both knew it. On Saturday morning, the news crew arrived at the Thompson house at 8:00 a.m. They set up in the living room, careful to capture the family photos on the mantel, the fresh flowers Gloria had arranged, the sense of warmth and healing that now filled the home. The interviewer was a veteran journalist named Catherine Walsh, a woman in her 50s but with a reputation for handling sensitive stories with grace. She sat down across from Marcus and Zoe, her expression kind and open. "Before we start, I want you both to know that we can stop at any time. If any question makes you uncomfortable, just say so. This is your story. You control how it's told." Zoe nodded. She was wearing her yellow dress again, the butterfly necklace at her throat, her hair styled in 2 perfect puffs with white ribbons. Catherine turned to the camera. "We're here today with Marcus Thompson and his daughter Zoe, survivors of a nightmare that shocked the nation. Marcus, let's start with you. When did you first realize something was wrong?" Marcus told the story, the early return from his business trip, the sounds from the garden shed, the moment he saw his daughter sitting on that filthy floor with spoiled food in her hands. "I had trusted this woman with everything. My home, my business, my daughter, and she had been destroying all of it while I was too blind to see." "Zoe," Catherine said gently, "you didn't speak for 5 years after your mother's accident. Can you tell us what that was like?" Zoe took a breath. Her voice was still soft, still uncertain, but steady. It was like being trapped in a glass box. "I could see everyone. I could hear everyone, but they couldn't hear me. I wanted to scream so many times, but nothing came out. The words got stuck somewhere between my brain and my mouth." "What made you finally speak in that courtroom?" Zoe looked at her father, then back at Catherine. "I was tired of being scared. I was tired of her winning. When she whispered that thing to me about my mommy being ashamed, something inside me broke open. Not broken bad, broken free, like a bird getting out of a cage. I realized that my voice was the only weapon I had left, and I was going to use it." Catherine's eyes glistened. "Your mother died protecting you. What would you want to say to her if she could hear you right now?" Zoe was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, tears were rolling down her cheeks. "I would say thank you. Thank you for loving me so much that you used your own body as a shield. Thank you for staying with me even after you were gone. I feel you every day, Mommy, in the sunshine and the butterflies and the way Daddy smiles when he talks about you. You're not really dead, you're just in a different room, and someday I'm going to find you there." The interview continued for another hour. Marcus talked about the investigation, the other victims, the reforms he hoped would come. He announced that he was establishing the Amara Thompson Foundation, dedicated to protecting children who couldn't protect themselves. "Every child deserves someone who will fight for them," he said. "Every child deserves to be believed. If our story helps even one family recognize the signs, if it saves even one kid from going through what Zoe went through, then everything we suffered will have meaning." After the interview, Catherine pulled Marcus aside. "That little girl of yours is remarkable. The courage it took to speak in that courtroom to share her story today. She's going to change the world." "She already has. Come," Marcus said. "She changed mine." On Sunday morning, the interview aired to record ratings. Within hours, the Thompson story was everywhere. Social media exploded with support. Donations poured into the newly established foundation. Politicians called for investigations into child protective services. Parents across the country looked at their children with new eyes, suddenly aware that monsters could wear beautiful faces and speak with gentle voices. At 2:00 p.m., Marcus received a call from the governor of Georgia. "Mr. Thompson, I want to personally thank you for your courage. Your story has illuminated a crisis that has been hidden in plain sight for far too long. I'm signing an executive order today establishing a task force to review psychiatric evaluations of children across the state. We will find every victim. We will bring them home." "Thank you, Governor, but the credit belongs to my daughter. She's the one who found her voice. I just gave her the opportunity to use it." That evening, the family gathered in the living room. Marcus, Zoe, Gloria, Dr. Morrison, Michelle, and Detective Santos. They had all played a role in bringing justice to a child who had been silenced and abused. They had all fought for the truth when it would have been easier to look away. Gloria had cooked another feast, fried catfish and hush puppies and coleslaw and sweet tea, the food of her childhood, the food of celebration. "To Zoe," Michelle said, raising her glass, "the bravest person I have ever had the honor of representing." "To Zoe," everyone echoed. Zoe blushed and hid her face in her father's shoulder, but she was smiling. At 9:00 p.m., after everyone had gone home, Marcus sat with Zoe on the back porch. The garden stretched before them, dark and peaceful. Fireflies danced in the warm evening air. "Are you happy, Daddy?" Zoe asked. Marcus thought about it. Happy wasn't quite the right word. He was healing. He was grateful. He was learning to live without the weight of guilt that had crushed him for so long. "I'm getting there, sweetheart. Every day a little more." "Me too." Zoe leaned against him. "Dr. Morrison says healing isn't a straight line. It goes up and down and sometimes sideways. But as long as we keep moving, we're doing okay." "That sounds right." "Daddy?" "Yes, baby." "Can we plant more butterflies in Mommy's garden? She loved butterflies. She told me in my dream that she misses them." Marcus smiled. "We can plant anything you want. Tomorrow we'll go to the nursery and pick out the most beautiful flowers we can find. We'll make that garden the most amazing place in all of Atlanta." "Promise?" "I promise." They sat together in the darkness, father and daughter, watching the fireflies dance. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird sang. The stars came out one by one, tiny points of light in an infinite sky, and in the morning they would begin again. 6 months had passed since the courtroom battle that changed everything. The autumn leaves had fallen and regrown, the holidays had come and gone, and the Thompson house, once a place of hidden horrors, had transformed into something it had never been before. A home filled with laughter, with warmth, with the sound of a little girl's voice growing stronger every day. On a bright Monday morning in April, Marcus stood at the kitchen counter making breakfast while Zoe sat at the table doing her homework. She was 8 years old now, having celebrated her birthday in February with the biggest party Buckhead had ever seen. 200 guests, a butterfly-themed cake designed by Atlanta's finest bakery, and for the first time in her life, Zoe had blown out her candles and made a wish out loud. "I wish for everyone who helped me to be happy forever." The memory still made Marcus smile. "Daddy, what's 7 times 8? Marcus turned from the stove. "You know that one, sweetheart. We practiced yesterday." Zoe scrunched up her face in concentration. 56? That's my girl. Gloria shuffled into the kitchen at 7:30 a.m., her housecoat wrapped tight against the morning chill. She had moved into the guest cottage permanently, and she had never been happier. The nightmares that had plagued her for months after Vanessa's arrest had finally faded. She slept peacefully now, knowing the child she loved was safe. "Something smells good in here." Gloria peered over Marcus's shoulder at the pan. "Are those my grandmother's cinnamon pancakes? I've been practicing. Zoe wanted them for breakfast." "Miss Gloria's are still better," Zoe said without looking up from her math problems. "But yours are getting close, Daddy." Gloria laughed and ruffled the child's hair. "You've got your mama's honesty, child, that's for sure." At 9:00 a.m. the phone rang. Marcus answered it in his study, expecting a call from the foundation office. Instead, he heard Michelle Robinson's voice, tense and urgent. "We have a problem. Vanessa's trial starts next week, and her new lawyers just filed a motion." Marcus's stomach dropped. "What kind of motion?" "They're claiming she's mentally unfit to stand trial. They've got a psychiatrist ready to testify that she was suffering from a psychotic break when she made those statements in your study. They want to move her to a psychiatric facility instead of prison." "That's insane. She planned everything for years. She killed my wife. She tortured my daughter. That's not a psychotic break. That's cold-blooded premeditation." "I know, but we need to be ready. The prosecution is strong, but Vanessa's family has money, old money. They've hired the best defense team in the country." Marcus gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "What do we need to do?" "Be prepared to testify again. Be prepared for Zoe to testify again, and be prepared for Vanessa to do everything in her power to make herself look like the victim." After the call, Marcus sat in his study for a long time, staring at the wall. He had thought it was over. He had believed the nightmare was behind them. But Vanessa was like a snake. Even trapped, she could still strike. He couldn't tell Zoe, not yet. She was doing so well. Her therapy sessions with Dr. Morrison had helped her process the trauma. Her voice had grown stronger and more confident. She had made friends at school, joined the art club, started taking piano lessons. She was healing. He wouldn't let Vanessa destroy that progress. At 2:00 p.m., Detective Santos called with more news. "We found something in Vanessa's prison communications. She's been writing letters to someone on the outside. The letters were coded, but our cryptographers cracked them." "Who was she writing to?" "A man named Victor Crane. He's a fixer. Works for wealthy families who need problems to disappear. We believe he's been coordinating with her defense team and possibly attempting to intimidate witnesses." "Intimidate witnesses how?" Santos paused. Gloria received a threatening letter last week. She didn't want to worry you, so she came directly to us. Someone left it in her mailbox. It said if she testified again, she would regret it. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. She didn't tell me. She's a strong woman. She wants to protect you and Zoe. But I've assigned a protection detail to your house. Plainclothes officers will be watching around the clock until the trial is over. Does Vanessa know she's been caught? Not yet. We're setting a trap. We fed false information through her communication channels. If Victor Crane acts on it, we'll have him. That evening, Marcus confronted Gloria gently in the kitchen. Why didn't you tell me about the letter? Gloria stopped stirring the pot on the stove. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't want you to worry. You've been doing so well, Mr. Marcus. You and Zoe both. I couldn't bear to bring that darkness back into this house. Gloria, we're family now. We face things together. All of us. Gloria turned to face him, tears in her eyes. I've been scared. Not for myself. For that baby. What if they come after her? What if they try to hurt her to keep me quiet? Marcus put his hands on her shoulders. They won't get anywhere near her. The police are watching. The Foundation has hired private security, and I will personally destroy anyone who tries to harm my daughter or anyone she loves. Gloria nodded slowly. Then I'll testify. I'll say every word just like before. That monster took 5 years of my life worrying about Zoe. She took Miss Amara from this world. She doesn't get to win. Not now. Not ever. On Tuesday, Marcus received a call from the Amara Thompson Foundation office. The director, a woman named Patricia Chen, who had been one of the freed children's mothers, had incredible news. Marcus, we just got the results from the congressional inquiry. They're implementing the Amara Act, federal oversight of psychiatric evaluations for children, mandatory reporting requirements, background checks for all professionals who work with vulnerable kids. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. The Amara Act. Named after your wife. Named after the woman whose murder exposed this entire network of corruption. She's going to save thousands of children, Marcus. Children who will never know her name, but whose lives will be better because she existed. After he hung up, Marcus went to the living room where a portrait of Amara hung above the fireplace. It had been painted from his favorite photograph of her, the one taken on their honeymoon in Jamaica. She was smiling, her eyes bright with joy and hope. You did it, baby, he whispered. Even from heaven, you're still protecting the children. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful I got to love you, even if it wasn't long enough. Zoe found him there at 5:00 p.m., still standing before the portrait. Daddy, are you crying? Marcus wiped his eyes. Happy tears, sweetheart. Do you remember when Dr. Morrison talked about different kinds of tears? Zoe nodded. She said some tears wash out sadness and some tears wash in joy. These are the joy kind. Good news came today. A new law is being passed that will protect children all over the country, and it's named after your mama. Zoe's eyes went wide. Really? Mommy's going to have a law. The Amara Act. It's going to make sure what happened to you never happens to other kids. Doctors won't be able to lie anymore. Bad people won't be able to hide. Zoe walked over to the portrait and looked up at her mother's face. Did you hear that, Mommy? You're famous? You're a hero. She turned back to Marcus. When I grow up, I want to help kids too. Like you and Mommy, I want to make sure no one gets locked in dark places ever again. Marcus pulled her into a hug. You already are helping, baby. Every time you tell your story, every time you show people that they can survive and come out stronger, you're saving lives. On Wednesday, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived at the house addressed to Zoe Thompson. The handwriting was shaky and unfamiliar. Marcus opened it carefully, scanning it for threats before allowing Zoe to read it. But it wasn't a threat. It was a thank you. Dear Zoe, the letter began. My name is Emma. I am 9 years old. I saw you on TV when you told your story. I was scared of my stepfather, just like you were scared of your stepmother. After I saw you be brave, I told my teacher what was happening. She called the police. They came and took my stepfather away. Now I live with my grandmother, and I am safe. Thank you for being brave so I could be brave too. You are my hero. Marcus watched his daughter read the letter, watched her face transform from curiosity to understanding to something that looked like wonder. She's safe because of me. Yes, sweetheart. She's safe because you found your voice. Zoe read the letter again. Then she held it against her chest like it was precious treasure. Can I write back to her? Of course you can. Zoe ran to get paper and crayons. Marcus watched her go, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. Over the next few days, more letters arrived. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Children from across the country who had seen Zoe's story and found the courage to speak up. Parents who had recognized the signs and intervened in time. teachers and doctors and neighbors who had stopped looking the other way. The foundation hired 2 full-time staff members just to handle the correspondence. On the Friday before Vanessa's trial, Detective Santos called with urgent news. "We got him, Victor Crane. He tried to approach one of our witnesses last night, didn't realize she was an undercover officer. He's in custody and he's talking." "What is he saying?" "Everything. Names, dates, methods. He's confirmed that Vanessa has been running operations from inside prison. She's been using her family's money to coordinate witness intimidation, evidence tampering, and even planned to arrange her escape from the psychiatric facility if the mental fitness motion succeeded." An escape. She had it all worked out. Fake medical emergency during transport. Bribed guards. A private plane waiting to take her to a country with no extradition treaty. Santos paused. "But it's over now. Crane's cooperation has exposed everyone involved. Additional charges are being filed. There's no way out for her, not this time." The trial began on Monday morning at 9:00 a.m. The federal courthouse was surrounded by media from around the world. Supporters held signs outside that read "Justice for Amara" and "We stand with Zoe." The nation was watching. Marcus arrived with Zoe at his side. She had insisted on being there. She wanted to see it through to the end. "Are you sure about this, sweetheart? It might be hard to hear some things." Zoe squeezed his hand. "I have to be here, Daddy. Mommy is watching. I want to be her eyes." They took their seats in the front row of the gallery. Gloria sat on Zoe's other side, her Bible clutched in her hands. Michelle sat behind them with Detective Santos and a team of prosecutors. Vanessa was brought in at 9:15 a.m. She looked different than she had at the custody hearing. Smaller, paler. The arrogance was still there, in her eyes, but it was muted now, tempered by the reality of her situation. Her lawyers had abandoned the mental fitness motion after Victor Crane's arrest. They were now pursuing a last-ditch defense based on lack of direct evidence. They claimed the recordings were unreliable. They claimed the witnesses were biased. They claimed Marcus had coached Zoe's testimony. The prosecution methodically destroyed every argument. They presented the financial records showing payments to Jerome Wilson, the truck driver who had killed Amara. They played the recording from Marcus's study where Vanessa confessed in explicit detail. They showed the security footage of abuse that had shocked the nation. They brought witness after witness who testified to Vanessa's cruelty, her manipulation, her complete lack of remorse. On the third day of trial at 2:30 p.m., something happened that no one expected. Vanessa's mother took the stand. Charlotte Cole was a woman in her 70s, elegant and composed, the matriarch of one of Georgia's oldest wealthy families. She had refused to comment on her daughter's case throughout the proceedings, but now she had asked to testify for the prosecution. "Mrs. Cole," the prosecutor began, "what is your relationship with the defendant?" "She is my daughter, my only child." "And yet you have chosen to testify against her. Can you explain why?" Charlotte's voice was steady but heavy with grief. "Because what my daughter did is unforgivable. Because I failed to see the monster I raised. And because the only way I can begin to make amends is to ensure she faces justice." "What do you mean when you say you failed to see the monster you raised?" Charlotte looked at Vanessa. Mother and daughter locked eyes across the courtroom. Vanessa was always different, cold, calculating. She never cried even as a baby. She manipulated her nannies, her teachers, her friends. I told myself she was just special, just gifted. I told myself her lack of emotion was strength. Charlotte's voice broke. But it wasn't strength. It was emptiness. And I let that emptiness grow because I was too proud to admit that my daughter was broken. "Do you believe the defendant is capable of the crimes she has been accused of?" Charlotte nodded slowly. "I believe she is capable of far worse. When she was 16, a girl from her school died in a car accident. The police ruled it a suicide. But I found a journal in Vanessa's room. She had written about the girl, about how easy it was to manipulate her, about how satisfying it was when she finally broke." Charlotte wiped her eyes. "I burned that journal. I told myself it was fiction, that my daughter was just writing stories. I was wrong. I was so wrong." The courtroom was absolutely silent. "Mrs. Cole, do you have anything you would like to say to the victims of your daughter's crimes?" Charlotte turned to face Marcus and Zoe. Her eyes were wet with tears. "I am so sorry. I am sorry for Amara, who deserved to live. I am sorry for Zoe, who deserved to be safe. I am sorry for every child my daughter hurt. And I am sorry that my blindness allowed this to happen. I cannot undo the past, but I can make sure the future is different. My family's fortune will be used to fund the Amara Thompson Foundation, every penny, for the rest of my life and beyond. It's not enough. Nothing could ever be enough. but it's all I have to give." Vanessa leaned over to her lawyers, her face contorted with rage. She whispered something furiously. One of them tried to calm her down. "Your Honor, I have nothing further," the prosecutor said. The defense declined to cross-examine. Charlotte Cole stepped down from the witness stand. As she passed Vanessa, she stopped. "Goodbye, daughter. I love the child I thought you were. I mourn her every day." Vanessa's composure finally cracked. She stood up, knocking her chair backward, her voice a scream. "You're supposed to be on my side. You're my mother. How dare you betray me?" Order! At the judge banged his gavel. "Defendant will be seated." "I won't be silenced. This whole trial is a farce. Marcus Thompson is a liar. That child is a manipulative freak who belongs in an institution." The bailiffs moved to restrain her. Vanessa fought them, kicking and scratching like a wild animal. "I should have killed her when I had the chance. I should have finished what I started." The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order repeatedly. Finally, Vanessa was dragged from the room, still screaming threats and obscenities. Zoe watched it all with wide eyes. But she didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She simply held her father's hand and watched the monster who had tormented her finally reveal herself to the world. "That's her true face," Zoe said quietly. "That's what she looked like in the dark when no one else could see." On Friday at 10:00 a.m., the jury returned with their verdict. In the matter of the state versus Vanessa Cole Thompson, on the charge of first-degree murder, we the jury find the defendant guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, we the jury find the defendant guilty. On the charge of child abuse, we the jury find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, we the jury find the defendant guilty. On the charge of fraud, we the jury find the defendant guilty. On the charge of witness tampering, we the jury find the defendant guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom like a bell tolling for the end of a nightmare. Vanessa sat motionless as the verdicts were read. The fight had gone out of her. She stared straight ahead, her face blank, her eyes empty. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month. Vanessa was led away in handcuffs without another word. Outside the courthouse, Marcus faced a wall of cameras and microphones. Zoe stood beside him, Gloria on her other side. "Mr. Thompson, how do you feel about the verdict?" Marcus looked at his daughter. She nodded. "I feel grateful," he said. "Grateful for a justice system that worked. Grateful for the detectives and prosecutors who fought for the truth. Grateful for my daughter, who found her voice when she needed it most. And grateful for my wife Amara, who is watching from heaven and knows that her death was not in vain." "Zoe, do you have anything to say?" Zoe stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. "I want to say something to all the kids who are scared right now. All the kids who are being hurt by people who are supposed to love them. You are not alone. Your voice matters. Even if no one believes you at first, keep talking. Keep telling. Someone will hear you. Someone will help. I know because it happened to me. I was in the dark for a long time, but I found the light, and you will too." A month later, on a warm June morning, Vanessa Cole Thompson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She would die behind bars. The monster was finally caged. That evening, the Thompson family held a celebration at the house. Not for Vanessa's sentence. That wasn't cause for celebration, but for something else. Something that represented the future instead of the past. Zoe Thompson was officially starting 3rd grade in the fall. She had completed her recovery program with Dr. Morrison. She had been accepted into the gifted and talented program at her new school, and she had been invited to speak at the National Conference on Child Protection, where she would address an audience of thousands. "Are you nervous?" Marcus asked as they sat on the back porch watching fireflies dance in the garden. "A little," Zoe admitted, "but Dr. Morrison taught me a trick. When I get scared, I imagine Mommy standing next to me. She holds my hand. She tells me I can do anything, and then I don't feel scared anymore." "That's a good trick." "Daddy." "Yes, sweetheart." "Do you think Mommy is proud of us?" Marcus looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there beyond the atmosphere and the planets and the vast emptiness of space, he believed his wife was watching. He believed she had never really left. "I know she is, baby. I know she is." The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of laughter from the garden. He went to the window and looked out. Zoe was in Amara's butterfly garden, now restored to its former glory and expanded to 3 times its original size. She was surrounded by monarchs and swallowtails and painted ladies, their wings catching the morning sun like stained glass. Gloria sat on a bench nearby, watching with a smile on her face. And standing beside Zoe, visible only for a moment in the golden light, was a figure in a white dress. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. A woman who had never really left. Marcus blinked and the figure was gone. But Zoe turned toward the house and she was smiling. She raised her hand and waved. Marcus waved back. 1 year later, the Amara Thompson Foundation had helped rescue over 300 children from abusive situations. The Amara Act had been implemented in all 50 states. Dr. Raymond Foster and Sheriff Harold Dalton and Vincent Price and a dozen others were serving lengthy prison sentences. The network of corruption that had preyed on vulnerable families for decades had been completely dismantled, and Zoe Thompson, now 9 years old, had become a symbol of hope for survivors everywhere. She gave her speech at the National Conference on Child Protection to a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. She met with the President of the United States, who told her she was the bravest person he had ever encountered. She wrote a children's book called Finding My Voice that became a bestseller and was translated into 37 languages. But her proudest moment came on a quiet Sunday afternoon when a little girl approached her in the park. "Are you Zoe Thompson?" Zoe looked down at the child, who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She had big brown eyes and braided hair and a hesitant smile. "I am. What's your name?" "Maya. I saw you on TV. I heard your story." Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. "Bad things happen at my house, too." Zoe knelt down until they were eye to eye. She took Maya's hands in her own. "I believe you, Maya, and I'm going to help you. You're not alone anymore." Marcus watched from a nearby bench as his daughter flagged down a police officer and explained the situation with calm authority. He watched as Child Protective Services was called. He watched as Maya was taken to safety, her hand still holding onto Zoe's. That night, after Maya had been placed with a foster family and an investigation had been launched, Marcus sat with Zoe in her room. "You saved her," he said. "That little girl would still be suffering if you hadn't been there." Zoe nodded slowly. "I know what it feels like to be scared and alone. I know what it feels like when no one sees you. I never want another kid to feel that way. Your mother would be so proud of you." "I know she is, she told me." "In a dream?" Zoe smiled mysteriously. "Something like that." On the 2-year anniversary of Amara's death, the family visited her grave together. Marcus, Zoe, and Gloria stood before the headstone as the morning sun filtered through the magnolia trees. Zoe placed fresh flowers on the grave. Yellow roses, her mother's favorite. "Hi, Mommy, it's me again. I have so much to tell you. School is going great. I got straight A's last semester. My book is helping lots of kids. Daddy finally learned how to make Miss Gloria's pancakes properly, and I found my voice. You knew I would, didn't you? You always believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself." She paused, her eyes filling with tears. "I miss you every day. But I'm not sad anymore, because I know you're watching. I know you're proud. And I know that someday, when my work here is done, I'll see you again. But not yet. I have too many kids to help first. Too many voices to find. Too many monsters to fight." She kissed her fingers and pressed them against the headstone. "I love you, Mommy, forever and always." Marcus stepped forward and added his own flowers to the grave. Red roses, the kind he used to bring Amara every anniversary. "Hey, baby, our daughter is changing the world, just like you knew she would. Thank you for giving her to me. Thank you for loving us both. Thank you for being the kind of person who shields others with their own body. I'll never forget. I'll never stop loving you, and I'll never stop fighting for the children you would have protected." Gloria said a quiet prayer, her lips moving silently, her tears flowing freely. They stood together in the golden morning light, 3 survivors bound by love and loss and the unbreakable bonds of family. And somewhere beyond the veil of this world, Amara Thompson watched over them. Her love had transcended death. Her sacrifice had sparked a revolution. Her legacy would live forever in every child who found safety, every voice that was heard, every monster that was brought to justice. 5 years after the trial, Zoe Thompson graduated from high school as valedictorian. She had been accepted to Harvard, where she planned to study psychology and law. She wanted to become an advocate for abused children. She wanted to spend her life giving voice to the voiceless. At her graduation ceremony, she gave a speech that would be replayed millions of times around the world. "When I was 7 years old, I couldn't speak. A woman who was supposed to care for me had taken my voice along with everything else. She locked me in darkness. She told me I was worthless. She made me believe that no one would ever hear me, no one would ever help me, no one would ever love me." She paused, looking out at the audience. Her father was in the front row, tears streaming down his face. Gloria sat beside him, clutching her Bible. Dr. Morrison was there. Detective Santos, Michelle Robinson, and hundreds of others whose lives had been touched by the Thompson family's story. But she was wrong. My father came home one day and found me in that darkness. He pulled me out. He believed me, he fought for me, and with his help, I found my voice. Zoe's voice grew stronger with every word. Today I stand before you not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as someone who was broken, but as someone who was forged in fire and came out stronger. My mother gave her life to protect me. My father gave his heart to heal me. And I have given my voice to a promise. A promise that I will spend every day of my life fighting for children who cannot fight for themselves. A promise that no child will suffer in silence as long as I have breath in my body. A promise that the darkness will never win. She raised her fist toward the sky. My name is Zoe Amara Thompson. I am the daughter of warriors. I am the voice of the voiceless. And I am just getting started. The auditorium erupted in applause that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. That night at the graduation party, Marcus danced with his daughter under a tent filled with fairy lights and laughter. Gloria watched from her chair, a proud smile on her face. Friends and family surrounded them, celebrating not just Zoe's achievement, but the journey that had brought them all to this moment. Daddy, Zoe said as they swayed to the music, do you remember what I told you that night in the courtroom when I spoke for the first time? I remember every word. I said I wasn't scared of her anymore, and I meant it, but I didn't tell you why. Why, sweetheart? Zoe looked up at him with Amara's eyes shining bright with tears and joy and unshakable strength. Because I had something she never had and never will. I had love, real love, the kind that doesn't hurt or control or destroy. The kind that protects and heals and makes you stronger. She thought she could break me, but you can't break someone who is held together by love. Marcus pulled his daughter close and held her tight. I love you, Zoe. More than words can say. I love you too, Daddy. More than words can say. Above them, the stars glittered in the endless sky. Somewhere in that infinite expanse, a woman in white watched over her family with a smile on her face and peace in her heart. Her daughter had found her voice. Her husband had found redemption. And the monsters had been defeated. This story began with a little black girl crying in the darkness, holding a bowl of spoiled food, believing she would never be heard. It ends with that same girl standing in the light, her voice ringing out across the world, proving that no darkness is too deep, no silence is too complete, and no child is too small to change everything. Justice came for the wicked. Love triumphed over hate. And hope once found could never be lost again.